Chapter 24-21. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, Li Bai was a famous poet. In his past life, Li Bai was a famous poet from 1,000 years ago. However, the beyond heaven's secret zone that he was currently in had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. In fact, it might even have existed for millions of years. It had been 100,000 years since the last time the beyond heaven's secret zone had opened. It had only been half a year since the opening of the beyond heaven's secret zone. It was impossible for Li Bai to enter the beyond heaven's secret zone. Duan Lingtian, don't you know that great overarching golden celestials from the Devata realms are allowed to enter the beyond heaven's secret zone as well? Zhang Yi asked bluntly when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Great overarching golden celestials from the Devata realms are allowed to enter the beyond heaven's secret zone? There's such a thing? Duan Lingtian was stunned. He was not aware of this. In fact, before he entered the beyond heaven's secret zone, he did not even know about its existence. He only thought it was the Sword Saint secret zone left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang. Han Xuanai was stunned as well. Similar to Duan Lingtian, she was unaware of this as well. Lu Xia, on the other hand, remained calm. It was obvious she had known about this for a long time. The Beyond Heaven's secret zone is a medium for great overarching golden celestials to find their successors. The reason the space in the Beyond Heaven's secret zone is so strong that even 9 tribulation bodiless celestials can't tear it open is because it was created by great overarching golden celestials from the Devata realms. Although the space here is not as strong as the space in the Devata realms, it's still not something a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial from the mundane realms can tear it open. Zhang Yi said. Duan Lingtian had long since discovered the strength of the space in the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. After all, even when he had used his strength that was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial to kill Pei Kuan Shan, the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, he had not been able to tear a hole in space. At that time, he already knew that the space in the Beyond Heaven's secret zone was extremely stable. Even a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial who stood at the peak of the mundane realms might not be able to tear it apart. After all, if a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial had the ability to tear open the space in the Beyond Heaven's secret zone, the key would lose its value. Therefore, when Duan Lingtian heard Zhang Yi's words, he only nodded and was not surprised. In the Devata realms, great overarching golden celestials and above have very high requirements for their disciples. Even in the Devata realms, they might not be able to find a suitable disciple. That's why they set their sights on the mundane planes. Because of this, the Beyond Heaven's secret zone was born. In fact, it's not just the 5 mundane realms that are connected to the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. Apart from the 5 mundane realms, the other mundane realms are also connected to the Beyond Heaven's secret zone. You should know that there are countless mundane realms below the Devata realms. Therefore, to a certain extent, the number of Beyond Heaven's secret zones is uncountable. For example, the Beyond Heaven's secret zone we're in now only opens once every 100,000 years. Every time it opens, only one great overarching golden celestial's inheritance will appear. In other words, only one great overarching golden celestial's inheritance will appear in the Beyond Heaven's secret zone every 10,000 to 100,000 years. If it wasn't for the fact that there are so many Beyond Heaven's secret zones, and the great overarching golden celestials in the Devata realms would not be able to find a successor at all. Zhang Yi paused for a moment to give Duan Lingtian time to digest his words. Duan Lingtian was truly shocked by Zhang Yi's words. Basically, every mundane realm has a Beyond Heaven's secret zone that's connected to it. Previously, when Hualao was still around, Duan Lingtian had heard Hualao say that there were only 10 mundane realms in the Devata realms. There were only 81 Devata realms in total. As for the mundane planes, they were innumerable. They were almost innumerable. If every mundane realm was connected to a Beyond Heaven's secret zone, even if several mundane realms were connected to the same Beyond Heaven's secret zone, there would still be countless Beyond Heaven's secret zones. When Duan Lingtian heard Zhang Yi's words earlier, he was puzzled. The Beyond Heaven's secret zone he was in only opened once every 100,000 years, and only one person would obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. In other words, only one person would obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial every 100,000 years in the beyond heaven's secret zone. At that time, Duan Lingtian did not think it was possible. However, when he heard that almost all mundane realms were connected to the beyond heaven's secret zone, he felt relieved. Even if only one person obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial every 100,000 years in the beyond heaven's secret zone. What about 10,000 beyond heaven's secret zones? What about 100,000 beyond heaven's secret zones? Even if only one person obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial every 100,000 years in the beyond heaven's secret zones. In other words, one person would obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial every year. If one person obtained the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial every 100,000 years in the beyond heaven's secret zones, in other words, 10 people would obtain the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial every year. This made a lot of sense. When Duan Lingtian thought about this, he felt relieved. For this reason, as long as they cast a wide net, they'll be able to find a successor, Zhang Yi said. Let's take a look at the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. Let's take the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone as an example. It has been 100,000 years since the 5 of us from the mundane realms entered the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. However, great overarching golden celestials from the Devata realms can enter the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone every once in a while. For this reason, the Green Lotus Sword Saint. I should call him the Green Lotus Sword Celestial now. Although Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, was a great overarching golden celestial from Yin Huang realm, it's not impossible for him to leave behind an inheritance in the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. Zhang Yi looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a smile, Duan Lingtian? Duan Lingtian, don't tell me you think Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, left his inheritance in this underground palace? In the end, Zhang Yi could not help but squint his eyes. Don't tell me this isn't the place where Li Bai's inheritance is? Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Zhang Yi's words. In his opinion, this was not the case. Since the Green Lotus Sword Celestial had left behind this underground palace, there had to be some inheritance left behind by Li Bai. However, based on Zhang Yi's words, it did not seem like Li Bai's inheritance was here. Of course not. Zhang Yi shook his head and said, Didn't you hear what Li Bai said in the underground palace? He said this is the heaven-ranked treasure vault he left behind. Heaven-ranked treasure vault? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Isn't the heaven-ranked treasure vault where his inheritance is? You don't even know what a heaven-ranked treasure vault is? Zhang Yi felt as though he was about to be defeated by Duan Lingtian's ignorance. Duan Lingtian was like a hothead in the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. He really could not figure out how Duan Lingtian managed to enter the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone half a year ago. However, Zhang Yi patiently explained to Duan Lingtian. In the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone, apart from the place where a great overarching golden celestial's inheritance is, there are 3 types of valuable places. One of them is called a human-ranked treasure vault. It's one of the 2 places we've been to. Apart from the clues leading to the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, there's nothing else in a human-ranked treasure vault. Above the human-ranked treasure vault is the earth-ranked treasure vault. It's the place where you obtain the celestial supreme treasure. Usually, there's a celestial supreme treasure in an earth-ranked treasure vault. Those who are eminent celestials and above have a chance of breaking the formation and obtaining the celestial supreme treasure. Naturally, the stronger one is, the faster one will be able to break the formation. Apart from the location of the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, the heaven-ranked treasure vault is the most valuable place in the Beyond Heaven's Secret Zone. It's also the most valuable place that's worth exploring, apart from the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. Zhang Yi's voice was filled with excitement when he spoke about the heaven-ranked treasure vault. When he heard Li Bai's words earlier, he did not even have time to think about Li Bai's identity before he became excited when he heard the words heaven-ranked treasure vault. Based on this, one could see how attractive a heaven-ranked treasure vault was. Apart from the human-ranked treasure vault and the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, heaven-ranked treasure vaults exclude bodiless celestials as well? Doesn't this mean bodiless celestials can only obtain celestial supreme treasures from Earth-rank treasure vaults? The other treasures have nothing to do with them? Duan Lingtian asked. You can't say it has nothing to do with them. If they discover a heaven-ranked treasure vault or the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, they'll usually wait outside and snatch the treasures from those who aren't as strong as them. A hint of dread could be seen on Zhang Yi's face when he spoke. When Zhang Yi saw Duan Lingtian's calm expression, he quickly reminded him, Duan Lingtian, don't underestimate the bodiless celestials who enter the beyond heaven secret zone. There are many 7 and 8 tribulation bodiless celestials among them. In fact, there might even be 9 tribulation bodiless celestials. As he spoke, the fear on Zhang Yi's face grew even more intense. 9 tribulation bodiless celestials? Duan Lingtian's heart jolted, and the calmness on his face faded a lot. Are there 9 tribulation bodiless celestials in Yinhuang realm? Duan Lingtian could not help but ask when Zhang Yi mentioned 9 tribulation bodiless celestials. Of course. Zhang Yi replied confidently. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat when he heard Zhang Yi's confident reply. After all, the possibility of 9 tribulation bodiless celestials existing and the existence of 9 tribulation bodiless celestials were 2 completely different concepts. Chapter 24-22. 9 tribulation bodiless celestials were extremely rare in the Saint Province realm where Duan Lingtian was from. It was rare for a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial to appear. After all, it was extremely difficult to become a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. Very few 8 tribulation bodiless celestials could pass the 9th bodiless celestial tribulation and become a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, Duan Lingtian thought it was extremely difficult to become a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial tribulation. Whether it was in the Saint Province realm or the other mundane realms, it was extremely difficult to become a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, Zhang Yi's words shocked Duan Lingtian again. There were 9 tribulation bodiless celestials in Yinhuang realm? However, what shocked Duan Lingtian the most was Zhang Yi's next words. There are more than 9 tribulation bodiless celestials in Yinhuang realm. When Zhang Yi's words entered Duan Lingtian's ears, it was as though he was struck by lightning. He was so shocked that he did not regain his senses for a long time. There were more than 9 tribulation bodiless celestials in Yinhuang realm? You're telling the truth? Duan Lingtian's eyes widened in shock when he looked at Zhang Yi again. He felt as though he was listening to a fairy tale. Of course it's true. Zhang Yi said confidently, there's a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial in the Celestial Masters sect. However, he's going to face the 10th bodiless celestial tribulation in a few decades. For this reason, he's been in closed-door cultivation recently. Since the Beyond Heaven secret zone has opened, nobody dares to disturb him since they're afraid it'll affect his 10th bodiless celestial tribulation that'll befall him in a few decades. For this reason, he didn't come to the Beyond Heaven secret zone this time. Duan Lingtian nodded. The 10th bodiless celestial tribulation. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He knew the 10th bodiless celestial tribulation was the most powerful heavenly tribulation in the mundane realms apart from the 9 heavenly tribulation. It was only a matter of time before a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial had to face it. If he could not overcome it, he would die and completely disappear from this world. If he managed to survive it, he would be able to ascend to a Devata realm again. Your Celestial Masters sect has a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. Does that mean the Flower Fruit Mountain and the Gao village also have one? Duan Lingtian asked. Flower Fruit Mountain has one. However, Old Gao village doesn't have one. Naturally, even if Gao Lao village doesn't have a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial, it won't affect his status in Yin Huang realm since he has a close relationship with Mount Huagua. No matter who it is, being an enemy of Gao Laozhuang is equivalent to being an enemy of Huagua Mountain. I'm sure Brother Lingtian knows the reason for this. It's because the founder of the Old Gao village and the founder of the Mountain of Flowers and Fruits were a pair of martial brothers. Zhang Yi replied in one breath. Duan Lingtian nodded, but the shock on his face did not disappear. He looked at Zhang Yi and continued to ask, based on what I know, It's extremely difficult to become a nine-tribulation bodiless celestial. It's rare for a nine-tribulation bodiless celestial to appear in our Saint Province realm. However, Yin Huang realm is completely different from our Saint Province realm. Why do I feel like it's so easy for a nine-tribulation bodiless celestial to appear in Yin Huang realm? Duan Ling Tian's eyes were filled with curiosity when he asked the question. It's not surprising. In response to Duan Ling Tian's question, Zhang Yi said, the Saint Province realm you're in is only a small mundane realm. Not only is it small, but it doesn't have any celestial legacies. On the other hand, Yin Huang realm is a large mundane realm. Not only is it big, but there are also many powerful forces that possess celestial legacies. The celestial legacies are either celestial supreme treasures or divine abilities from Devata realms. If an eight-tribulation bodiless celestial possesses a celestial supreme treasure and has mastered divine abilities from Devata realms, how difficult do you think it would be for him to pass the ninth bodiless celestial tribulation? In fact, there are many nine-tribulation bodiless celestials in Yin Huang realm. In fact, there are many nine-tribulation bodiless celestials who have successfully passed the 10th bodiless celestial tribulation and ascended to Devata realms as well. Zhang Yi paused for a moment before he continued to say, some bodiless celestials in Yin Huang realm are bodiless celestials. Moreover, some of the bodiless celestials in Yin Huang realm deliberately become bodiless celestials. These people usually have mastered divine abilities from Devata realms and possess celestial supreme treasures, or can borrow the power of celestial supreme treasures. It's easy for them to pass the celestial ascension tribulation when they're at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, they usually fail the celestial ascension tribulation on purpose so that they can protect their forces for 10,000 years after they become bodiless celestials. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed as he continued to say, the nine-tribulation bodiless celestial in our celestial master's sect deliberately failed the celestial tribulation to become a bodiless celestial. Moreover, there's a 90% chance that he'll be able to pass the 10th bodiless celestial tribulation in a few decades. Zhang Yi could not help but reveal a look of reverence from the bottom of his heart when he heard those words. Celestial legacies? Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, realization dawned on Duan Ling Tian. However, he could not help but ask curiously, where did the celestial legacies come from? Did someone who ascended to a Devata realm return to Yin Huang realm and leave behind the celestial legacies? Yes. However, this kind of situation is extremely rare. Zhang Yi nodded and said, this is because the conditions to return to the mundane realm from the Devata realm are very stringent. First of all, one must be a great overarching golden celestial or above in order to withstand the spatial turbulence from the Devata realm to the mundane realm. Secondly, even if one is a great overarching golden celestial or above, once one returns to the mundane realm, one will be tainted by the mundane karma. This will affect one's cultivation base in the future. Due to this reason, those below the great overarching golden celestial realm are unable to return to the mundane realms. As for existences above the golden immortal realm, they wouldn't be willing to be tainted with secular karma and affect their future cultivation just because they return to the secular plane. In fact, their cultivation might even remain stagnant and have no possibility of improving. Zhang Yi explained, naturally, there are also some great overarching golden celestials who are willing to return to the mundane realm just to leave behind a few celestial supreme treasures and divine abilities from the Devata realm for their descendants. The reason I said it's rare is because not all ancestors who have ascended to the Devata realms are willing to sacrifice themselves for their descendants in the mundane realms after they've become great overarching golden celestials. For this reason, not every force in Yin Huang realm has celestial supreme treasures and divine abilities from the Devata realm. Zhang Yi nodded in understanding. I see. Duan Ling Tian nodded. After listening to Zhang Yi's explanation, he finally understood. After a person ascended to the Devata realm, they would only be able to return to the mundane realm after becoming a great overarching golden celestial. However, even if they could return to the mundane realm, they would be tainted by the mundane karma. This would affect their cultivation base in the future. For this reason, not everyone was willing to return to the mundane realm to take care of their descendants after becoming a great overarching golden celestial. The Saint Province realm is small, to begin with. Moreover, the number of people in the Saint Province realm who have ascended to the Devata realms is far less than the large mundane realms. Therefore, it's only natural that the Saint Province realm doesn't have any celestial legacies. Without celestial legacies, there's no celestial supreme treasures and divine abilities from the Devata realm. Under such circumstances, it's difficult for an 8th tribulation bodiless celestial to pass the 9th bodiless celestial tribulation to become a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian finally understood. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian also realized the gap between a small mundane realm and a large mundane realm. For this reason, Zhang Yi's eyes lit up. At this moment, Zhang Yi's eyes lit up as he continued to say, "The Beyond Heaven secret zone is the only way for forces to obtain celestial supreme treasures and divine abilities from the Devata realms. Under such circumstances, as soon as the Beyond Heaven secret zone opens, almost all forces from the mundane realms would swarm into the Beyond Heaven secret zone like a swarm of bees. After all, as long as he can obtain a celestial supreme treasure or a divine ability from a Devata realm, he might be able to rise to the top in the future." Zhang Yi continued to say. Duan Lingtian nodded. He could understand this. For those forces that did not have celestial supreme treasures or divine abilities from the Devata realms, the Beyond Heaven secret zone was their last straw of hope. Only in the Beyond Heaven secret zone would they have a chance to obtain celestial supreme treasures or divine abilities from the Devata realms. As for the Celestial Master Sect, Flower Fruit Mountain, and other forces that had celestial supreme treasures or divine abilities from the Devata realms, they would also join in the fun. After all, no one would complain about having more celestial supreme treasures or divine abilities from the Devata realms. Since the heaven-rank treasure vault isn't the place of inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, what's in there? At this moment, Duan Lingtian changed the topic. Usually, there's more than one celestial supreme treasure and divine abilities from the Devata realms in a heaven-rank treasure vault. Take this heaven-rank treasure vault as an example. Since it was left behind by Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, there must be a celestial supreme treasure and 1 or 2 divine abilities from the Devata realms in there. Zhang Yi said, "There's more than one celestial supreme treasure and divine abilities from the Devata realms in there?" Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately. Fortunately, he already had a celestial supreme treasure. Chapter 24-23. Duan Lingtian knew very well why his strength was comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Firstly, it was because he had a celestial sword. Apart from that, the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, that he had mastered was a divine ability from the Devata realms. Even in the Devata realms, it was still considered an extraordinary assist-type divine ability. Lastly, Duan Lingtian relied on the legacy left behind by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. However, the Sovereign Heart Sword was not a divine ability. It was a martial technique. Therefore, it did not conflict with offensive divine abilities. In fact, it could be used together with offensive divine abilities. In other words, if Duan Lingtian could obtain an offensive divine ability from a Devata realm, his strength would increase greatly. Naturally, the prerequisite was that the offensive divine ability from a Devata realm could be used in conjunction with the Sovereign Heart Sword. If it could not be used in conjunction with the offensive divine ability, the effect would be greatly reduced. In fact, it might not even increase Duan Lingtian's strength. If I can obtain an offensive sword-type divine ability from a Devata realm, it'll definitely be able to complement my Sovereign Heart Sword perfectly. As long as I master it, my strength will increase greatly. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel excited when he thought of this. Currently, he was as strong as a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial if he unleashed all his techniques. If he could master an offensive sword-type divine ability from a Devata realm, his strength would increase greatly. He might even have a chance to become as strong as an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. If I master an offensive sword-type divine ability from a Devata realm and successfully comprehend the 5th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the Heart and Sword Amalgamation, My strength will be comparable to a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. When Duan Tian thought of this, he became even more excited. However, it's not realistic for me to comprehend the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart and sword amalgamation, before I ascend to a Devata realm. Duan Tian knew this very well. Therefore, he quickly calmed down from his agitation. He had tried to comprehend the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart and sword as one. However, he found that he was always unable to comprehend it. It was as if he was always lacking an opportunity, let alone successfully comprehending it. No matter what, if I can obtain a sword offensive divine ability from the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, it'll be great news for me. Soon after, Duan Tian shifted his gaze to the exposed corner of the underground palace. On the other hand, upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, other than Lu Xia who remained calm, Han Xuan'ai could not help but be pleasantly surprised. She did not expect the heaven-ranked treasure vault to have divine abilities from the Devata realms apart from celestial supreme treasures. Let's go. When Han Xuan'ai, Zhang Yi, and Lu Xia shifted their attention to Duan Tian said. Then, he took the lead and landed on the ground, entering the underground palace. Han Xuan'ai and the other two followed closely behind him. To the three of them, Duan Tian was like their backbone. Although the heaven-ranked treasure vault in front of them was tempting, they did not dare to enter before Duan Tian if he did not take the lead. When Duan Tian and the others entered the underground palace through the open door, something happened. However, the scene before their eyes had changed drastically. Of course, before this, they didn't even see what was inside the underground palace. Duan Tian raised an eyebrow. Currently, he was not in a palace nor was he in a room. Instead, he was in a dark swamp. Moreover, the atmosphere was extremely gloomy and oppressive. The illusory formation was triggered as soon as we entered. Han Xuan'ai was stunned. She moved closer to Duan Tian. Although Han Xuan'ai was not weak, the environment here was too terrifying. Moreover, she knew this was a heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by a great overarching golden celestial. Therefore, she did not dare to underestimate this place. Right when Duan Tian's group of 4 had solemn expressions on their faces and were prepared for battle. The heaven-ranked treasure vault that I left behind is divided into a total of 9 stages. As long as one passes through 3 stages, one will be able to obtain one of the things I left behind. A strange yet familiar voice suddenly resonated in the swamp and clearly entered the ears of Duan Tian and the other 3. It's the voice of Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. Lu Xia let out a cry of alarm. At the same time, she looked around vigilantly, but after looking for a long time, she didn't see a 5th figure. After the 3rd trial, I left behind an immortal supreme treasure. After the 6th trial, I left behind a divine ability. After the 9th trial, I left behind my comprehension of the Tao of the sword over the past 1,000 years. It's all in a jade slip. Li Bai's voice rang in the air again, causing the eyes of Duan Tian and the others to brighten. This was especially true for Duan Tian. Divine ability. There's a divine ability in this heaven-ranked treasure vault. Moreover, as a sword celestial, Li Bai was skilled in the sword. The divine ability he left behind might be a sword-type divine ability. Duan Tian's heartbeat quickened. It took him a long time to calm down. There was no doubt the divine ability left behind by Li Bai was from the Devata realms. He was more concerned about whether the divine ability was a sword-type divine ability or not. Apart from the celestial supreme treasure, there's also his comprehension of the sword Tao. This can be considered his inheritance, right? Duan Tian could not help but think to himself when he recalled the sword Tao comprehension Li Bai had left behind after the 9th challenge. After all, Li Bai's comprehension of the sword Tao could be considered his inheritance to a certain extent. For example, the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang in the Saint Province realm, was part of Senior Feng Qingyang's inheritance. What's going on? Duan Tian could not help but look at Zhang Yi and ask the question in his heart. Duan Tian, I forgot to tell you. Apart from the celestial supreme treasure and the divine ability, there's something else in the heaven-ranked treasure vault. It's the incomplete inheritance of a great overarching golden celestial. Zhang Yi answered Duan Ling Tian's question in a timely manner. Incomplete inheritance? Didn't you say it's impossible for this to be the place where Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, left his inheritance? Why is there an incomplete inheritance here? Duan Ling Tian asked. After all, the incomplete inheritance was left behind by a great overarching golden celestial to a fated person. Even if the fated person meets the great overarching golden celestial in the Devata realm, he'll only treat you as a nominal disciple at most. Only those who obtain the complete inheritance of a great overarching golden celestial and meet him in a Devata realm will be acknowledged and accepted as his disciple. Zhang Yi explained patiently. Even if it's useful to obtain the incomplete inheritance of a great overarching golden celestial, it won't be of much help to you. Duan Ling Tian nodded. After listening to Zhang Yi's explanation, Duan Ling Tian finally understood what Zhang Yi meant. Even if he obtained the incomplete inheritance of a great overarching golden celestial, it would not be of much help to him. For a moment, Duan Ling Tian's interest in the incomplete sword Dao that Li Bai had left behind had lessened significantly. The sixth trial. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's attention was completely focused on the sixth trial. After all, as long as he passed the sixth trial, he would be able to obtain the divine ability left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, from the Devata realm. Moreover, there was a high chance that the divine ability was a sword-type divine ability. It's here. Zhang Yi suddenly cried out in alarm. When Duan Ling Tian heard Zhang Yi's voice, he regained his senses. As soon as Duan Ling Tian regained his senses, a series of rustling sounds resonated in his ears. Gulp, 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 gulp. The strange sound entered the ears of Duan Ling Tian and the others. When Duan Ling Tian and the others heard the strange sound, they discovered the swamp around them was rumbling. It was as though lava was boiling. What a powerful energy fluctuation! At this moment, whether it was Han Xuanai, Zhang Yi, or even Lu Xia, all of them could clearly feel the waves of energy coming from the rolling swamp around them. The energy fluctuation made them feel pressured. Only Duan Ling Tian remained calm. It was as though he was not affected by the energy fluctuation coming from the swamp. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. All of a sudden, the sound of air being torn apart reverberated in the air. However, in the swamps that were boiling like magma, patches of mud suddenly splashed out. Along with the mud that splashed everywhere, giant swords came out of the swamp. These giant swords were dim, and from a distance, they looked like they were made of stone. When these huge swords came out of the swamp, their speed was still a little slow. However, as soon as they left the swamp, they were like dragons that had been freed from the shackles of their prison and regained their freedom. Originally, they looked very cumbersome, but at this moment, their bodies were as light as swallows. They swept through the air like streaks of lightning. After tens of thousands of gigantic swords flew out from the swamp in all directions, they swept toward Duan Ling Tian's group of 4. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The sound of swords whistling like thunder could be heard. The first few hundred huge swords seemed to carry a thunderous force as they swept across the air toward Duan Ling Tian and the others. Chapter 24-24. The offensive strength of these swords is comparable to the full force attack of a powerhouse at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. When the hundreds of gigantic swords shot toward him, Duan Ling Tian could feel the force contained in each of the gigantic swords was comparable to the full force attack of a powerhouse at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Of course, a giant sword that contained such a level of power was nothing to him. Therefore, he didn't care. However, even if he didn't care, it didn't mean that Han Xuanai and Lu Xia didn't care either. The two women's faces instantly turned pale. They were at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, even though they were at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage, they still felt pressured when faced with the combined attack of hundreds of powerhouses at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. As for Zhang Yi, although his expression did not change, his face became slightly solemn. Sword, come. Thunder, come. Immediately afterwards, Yang Kai also quickly condensed his thunder sword with his Saint Chi, guiding the thunder into it and strengthening it before sweeping it in all directions and destroying the hundreds of giant swords. Boom, boom, rumble. Just as Zhang Yi swept away the hundreds of giant swords, the remaining tens of thousands of giant swords were divided into 9 batches. Each batch of swords swept towards the same place and collided with each other, producing a series of earth-shattering noises. Along with the rolling airwaves and shockwaves, Duan Lingtian and the other three's line of sight were blocked by the sand and dust raised by the collision of the giant swords. When the dust settled, Duan Lingtian and the other three saw the remaining tens of thousands of giant swords, after being divided into 9 batches, actually transformed into 9 even larger swords. The blade of each sword would probably require more than 10 adults to wrap their arms around it. Boom. Rumble. Now, as the 9 swords swayed casually, they produced a series of rumbling sounds in the void. It was as if a giant had stepped on the ground, causing the earth to quake and mountains to shake. These 9 swords. Zhang Yi's expression changed completely, because he could clearly feel the power radiating from the 9 swords wasn't any weaker than his full-strength attack. Interesting. While Han Xuanai and Lu Xia's faces paled, Duan Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. He didn't expect that the first level of the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by the Azure Lotus Sword Celestial, Li Bai, would be so difficult. The energy from each of the 9 gigantic swords was comparable to a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Moreover, he was stronger than ordinary powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Of course, the power of each of the swords was slightly weaker than Zhang Yi's. However, it was not by much. If there were only 2 or 3 of these 9 giant swords, Zhang Yi would still be able to handle them. However, if more than 4 giant swords were to attack him at the same time, he had no confidence in winning. Duan Lingtian, I didn't expect that you would have to personally take on the first challenge. Zhang Yi smiled wryly as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Previously, when they were in the human-rank treasure vaults, Zhang Yi and Lu Xia could handle the challenges on their own. They did not need Duan Lingtian's help. However, he did not expect the challenges in the heaven-rank treasure vault to be so terrifying. Even he could not handle the first challenge, let alone Lu Xia. It's nothing. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, Duan Lingtian shook his head with a faint smile on his face. Almost at the same instant when Duan Lingtian shook his head with a faint smile. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 9 gigantic swords that were like pillars that supported the heavens looked extremely cumbersome. However, when they moved, their speed was at least 10 times faster than the hundreds of gigantic swords from before. When such a huge 9 swords broke through the air, not only was their might shocking, even the shockwave that was formed from the air wave was extremely frightening. Apart from Duan Lingtian and Zhang Yi, Han Xuanai and Lu Xia's delicate bodies were trembling violently. It was as though they would be blown away at any moment. However, this did not last long. Whoosh! The silhouette of a black tortoise extended from Duan Lingtian's body and shrouded the 2 women. In just a blink of an eye, the 2 women felt the sudden pressure disappear. Go! Duan Lingtian shouted softly. Subsequently, the immortal sword that had appeared in his hand at an unknown time flashed out swiftly as well, and it brought along a brief sword howl. Of course, regardless of whether it was Han Xuanai, Lu Xia, or Zhang Yi, they could only vaguely hear the sound of the sword whistling. They could not see the sword light that circled around the area. Boom, 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 boom. Earth-shattering sounds of thunder rang in the air at the same time, causing Han Xuanai and the other 2 women to feel as though their eardrums were about to burst. It was Duan Lingtian's celestial sword that had flown out with the sword-wielding art. It made a turn in the air and destroyed the 9 gigantic swords. Duan Lingtian's celestial sword was like an ant in front of the 9 gigantic swords that looked like pillars that supported the heavens. However, the celestial sword that was as insignificant as an ant was able to destroy the 9 gigantic swords. With this, Duan Lingtian and the other 3 women could be considered to have passed the first obstacle left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. As the four of them continued to walk into the swamp in front of them gradually disappeared. Soon after, their eyes lit up again. They appeared in a grand hall that was dazzling with gold and jade. It looked extremely luxurious. The light in the hall came from the huge luminous pearls that were embedded in the hall. Each of these luminous pearls was so large that it would be difficult for two adults to wrap their arms around each of them. After Duan Lingtian and the other three women passed the first obstacle in the heaven-ranked treasure vault, they appeared in the grand hall. Meanwhile, the land of exile that was next to the Saint Province realm was not peaceful at all. The land of exile was also known as the exiled realm. It was a mundane realm that was next to the Saint Province realm. Currently, the spatial barrier between the exiled realm and the Saint Province realm had been broken. As long as one's cultivation base was not too weak, one could freely travel between the two realms. Roar! Roar! A series of earth-shattering dragon roars rang in the air. In the southern polar region of the exiled plain, in a barren mountain surrounded by red mist, there was a huge blood-colored lake. The blood-colored lake water was surging. Bang! A loud sound rang out, but a huge white figure suddenly flashed under the surging blood-colored lake water. Following that, the surface of the lake seemed to have exploded. Splash! Crash! Crash! The blood-colored lake water was like a huge fountain, shooting up into the sky. The surrounding blood-colored lake water was like drops of dazzling blood, giving people a creepy feeling. Roar! Roar! The dragon roar, which had resounded for a while before suddenly coming to a stop, resounded once again at this moment. However, unlike the dragon roar that came from the lake earlier, this dragon roar came from above the blood-red lake. It came from 1,000 meters above the blood-red lake. Above the blood-red lake, there was a white divine dragon floating in the air. Its gigantic body was close to 2,000 meters long, and its entire body was covered in shining white dragon scales. It looked like finely carved white porcelain, giving people a surreal feeling. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the old man's eyes were shining brightly. The white divine dragon had 8 sharp claws on each of its claws. It was an 8-clawed divine dragon. In fact, there was only one 8-clawed divine dragon among the dragons in the Saint Province realm. He was the strongest dragon in the Saint Province realm, the patriarch of the dragon clan. He was an 8-clawed golden dragon. However, the 8-clawed white dragon that appeared here was an 8-clawed white dragon. Moreover, as the 8-clawed white dragon's body swayed, waves of demonic energy condensed from demonic chi appeared around it. The demonic energy flickered like lightning as it wrapped around the dragon's body and swept past it. In particular, the 8-clawed white dragon's eyes were bloodshot, as if it was possessed by a demon. If there were any members of the dragon clan here, they would definitely be shocked to see this white dragon. This was because white dragons were rarer than golden dragons. Moreover, their innate talent and foundation were not inferior to golden dragons. In fact, they were even stronger than golden dragons. Roar! Roar! As soon as the 8-clawed white dragon appeared above the blood-red lake, another dragon's roar rang from the bottom of the lake. This time, the dragon's roar was much louder than the white dragon's roar. Bang! The blood-red lake that had finally calmed down splashed up again. At the same time, a huge black figure flashed past. In the next moment, an 8-clawed white dragon and an 8-clawed black dragon appeared above the blood-red lake. That was right. It was also a divine dragon that flew out from the blood-red lake. It was a black dragon with shiny black dragon scales all over its body. Apart from that, it had 8 claws on each of its claws. This black dragon's body was also surrounded by devil aura that was condensed from devil chi. Its eyes were also blood-red. If there were any dragons present, their expressions would change when they saw the black dragon. After all, the black dragon was an 8-clawed devil dragon. When the 2 8-clawed divine dragons appeared above the blood-red lake one after another, little black, little white, you've finally come out of closed-door cultivation. Chapter 24-25. The little girl who suddenly appeared above the blood-red lake was dressed in a golden robe. She was very cute, and her delicate face was like a delicate work of art. Little black, little white, You've finally come out of closed-door cultivation. At this moment, apart from the golden-clad little girl, the 8-clawed white dragon, and the 8-clawed devil dragon were the only ones left. In other words, Little Black and Little White were none other than the 8-clawed devil dragon and the 8-clawed white dragon. As soon as the golden-clad little girl spoke, the 8-clawed white dragon's eyes that were originally blood-red faded and returned to normal. After returning to normal, the dragon's eyes seemed to be filled with spirituality. At the same time, the devil energy shrouding the 8-clawed divine dragon disappeared as though it had never been there. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past, and the 8-clawed white dragon's huge body flashed before it transformed into a little girl dressed in a white robe. She looked as though she was carved out of jade. She was about the same age as the golden-clad little girl. Little Gold, you've already come out of closed-door cultivation? The 8-clawed white dragon looked at the golden-clad little girl in surprise. It was obvious she was surprised the golden-clad little girl had come out of closed-door cultivation before her. Of course. Don't you know who I am? I'm a scarlet-eyed celestial devouring rat now. The golden-clad little girl, whom the white-clad little girl called Little Gold, raised her head proudly when she heard the white-clad little girl's words. Oomph! At this moment, a cold snort rang out. It was the other 8-clawed demon dragon that had also transformed into its human form. Moreover, in the process of transforming into its human form, its eyes had also returned to normal. However, its eyes were different from the 8-clawed white dragon's. Instead, they were filled with coldness. The 8-clawed devil dragon's human form was a black-clad little boy who was about the same age as the golden-clad little girl and the white-clad little girl. Although he was young, his childish face was filled with coldness as though he was a little adult. What? Little Black, are you still not convinced? Upon hearing the black-clad little boy's snort, the golden-clad little girl turned to look at him immediately. The smug expression on her face deepened. If the senior who left the legacy blood pool wasn't a rat-type divine beast, you wouldn't have come out of closed-door cultivation before us. The black-clad little boy, whom the golden-clad little girl referred to as Little Black, looked at the golden-clad little girl indignantly. Excuses. They're all excuses. I, your great-aunt, am stronger than you. I'm stronger. Why don't we have a duel? Hearing the words of the little boy in black, the little girl in gold immediately became unhappy. When she spoke again, her tone was urgent, as if she was setting off firecrackers. Little boy and little boy, little black, little boy, little black. Little girl of black of little girl, little girl, little black, little girls, little girl, little girl. Little Black. Although the golden-clad little girl was a girl, she was very energetic in her actions, just like a tomboy. She looked at the white-clad little girl and chuckled. Little White, watch how I teach this guy a lesson. Do you really think I'm afraid of him just because he's transformed into an 8-clawed divine dragon? Both of you. The white-clad little girl had a helpless expression on her face when she saw the golden-clad little girl and the black-clad little boy arguing. However, there was nothing she could do. She had seen similar scenes many times in the past. It was just that their strength was weaker in the past. Forget it. If they want to have a duel, let them have a duel. It's just as well. I want to see how much Little Black's strength has improved. I have a feeling that my strength is about the same as his. At this moment, the white-clad little girl's gaze landed on the black-clad little boy again. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was not here. Otherwise, he would have recognized them with just a glance. These three children were none other than the two little pythons and the little golden mouse who had followed him in the past. Little Black, Little White, Little Gold. Bang! A thunderous boom resounded across the sky. It was Xiaohei who was the first to fly out. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a shooting star that streaked across the night sky. His gaze locked onto Xiao Jin in the distance as he charged straight towards her. When Blackie streaked across the sky, there were clearly visible cracks in the void where he passed. They looked very long and narrow, and it was impossible for them to heal without a certain amount of time. If Duan Lingtian was here, he would be shocked to see this. After all, the space in the Exile realm was not weaker than the space in the Saint Province realm. In other words, If one could tear the space in the exile realm and leave cracks in the void in the Saint Province realm, one would be able to tear the space in the Saint Province realm as well. Only 4 tribulation bodiless celestials could tear the space in the Saint Province realm and leave cracks in the void in the Saint Province realm. Even if a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial attacked with all his might, he would only be able to leave tiny cracks in the void. Now, when Blackie flew out, it tore the space apart and left cracks in the void. But they were not small cracks that could be healed in the blink of an eye. In other words, Little Black's current strength was not inferior to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Boom, 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 boom. Wherever Xiaohei passed, the space trembled. The space was shaken violently by his body and the power around him, leaving behind many cracks in the space. Good timing. Facing the menacing Xiaohei, Xiao Jin was not afraid at all. Instead, his eyes lit up and a strong fighting spirit rose in his eyes. In just a blink of an eye, boundless energy surged out of her body. As soon as the power broke out of his body, it slammed into the void and left a series of hideous cracks in the void. Bang! Another thunderous sound rang in the air. Little Gold had made her move after Little Black. She did not dodge Little Black's attack. Instead, she fearlessly charged at Little Black. It was clear she was prepared to fight Little Black. One had to know that under such circumstances, she did not have any advantage at all. After all, Little Black had made the first move. Boom, 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 boom. While Little Gold was charging at Little Black, a series of long and ferocious cracks appeared in the void. Moreover, these spatial cracks were even longer than the spatial cracks that Xiao Jin had created when he moved through them. Our current strength is actually this strong? Before Xiao Jin and Xiaohei started fighting, Xiaobai looked at the cracks in the void in front of her and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. At this moment, the void in front of her was like a piece of paper. However, this piece of paper seemed to have been cut by a sharp blade. There were countless cracks on it. It was not an exaggeration to say it was riddled with holes. However, Little Gold's strength does seem to be stronger than Little Black's. You have to know, in the past, although her strength was not much weaker than Xiaohei's, it was still slightly weaker. Usually, Little Black would be able to defeat her after 100 moves. But now, putting everything else aside, based on the size of the cracks in the void in front of her, Little White could tell that Little Gold and Little Black were stronger than Little Gold and Little Black. Little Gold's strength was even stronger than Little Black's. However, this is normal. After all, as Little Black said, the senior who left behind the legacy blood pool was a rat-type divine beast. Little Gold was originally a jade-eyed heavenly rat. It could be said that she's the same species as him. It's only natural for her to cultivate in the legacy blood pool that he left behind. Little White was relieved when she thought about this. She felt it was only natural that Little Gold was stronger than Little Black. Moreover, if it weren't for Little Gold, we wouldn't have been able to find this place. When Whitey thought about the fortuitous encounter she had obtained this time, her eyes became blurry and absent-minded. Previously, she, Little Black, and Little White had appeared in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land together. Not long after, they met their brotherling Tian's good friend, Su Li. Due to Su Li's strange condition, they were afraid something would happen to him, so they followed closely behind him. Wherever Su Li went, they would follow. This was because they did not want to follow Su Li. If they didn't leave with Su Li and something happened to Su Li, they wouldn't be able to face their big brotherling Tian in the future. Apart from that, they also knew the reason Su Li did not kill them when he was possessed was because he remembered their brotherling Tian. Otherwise, they would have been killed by Su Li's sword. They followed Su Li all the way and walked through many places in the WCI subterranean. In the end, they even left the WCI subterranean and came to this dark land of exile. The heaven and earth spirit energy here was so thin that they did not want to stay here any longer. When they saw Su Li walking deeper into the WCI subterranean, they had no choice but to follow him. During this time, Su Li's emotions had become much more normal. He was no longer possessed, and he could even talk to them occasionally. Just as they were about to leave with Su Li while he was recovering, a voice suddenly rang out. Little Black, Little White. I feel like there's a voice calling out to me nearby. Do you feel the same? Chapter 24-26. The Inheritance Blood Pool. It was Xiao Jin's words that had brought them to this place. This place was extremely well hidden. If it were not for Little Gold's guidance, they would not have been able to find this place even if they searched for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. That was because they'd encountered numerous, extremely terrifying formations on their way here. It could even be said that they were horrifying formations. In front of the power of those formations, even the bedeviled Suli did not dare to act rashly and obediently followed behind Little Gold. This was because Little Gold was the only one who could break the formations. They thought the formations were terrifying because they had seen Suli's sword. They saw with their own eyes that the sword in Suli's hand was like paper in front of the power of those array formations, instantly shattering into pieces. It should be noted that before that, they had already recognized the sword in Suli's hand was one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking, the Traceless Sword. The reason why they could recognize the Traceless Sword was because of this. The 9-cloud sword in the Oracle Man's hand was also one of the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking. Apart from the Traceless Sword, it was the second sword-type super saint weapon on the 10 great saint weapons ranking. For this reason, they had heard the Oracle Man mention the Traceless Sword. The Oracle Man had also described the Traceless Sword to them. For this reason, they recognized the sword in Suli's hand as the Traceless Sword. Even an eminent celestial who had passed the heavenly tribulation would not be able to destroy a super saint weapon, let alone shatter a super saint weapon like a piece of paper. The energy that had destroyed the Traceless Sword was from the formations they had encountered in the beginning. The further they went, the stronger the formations became. Due to this reason, even though Suli had lost his mind after becoming a demon, he still obediently followed behind Little Gold. Little Gold led the way as they broke through the formations and finally arrived at the location of the Inheritance Blood Pool. Based on Little Black and Little Gold's strength, I'm afraid even an eminent celestial who has passed the heavenly tribulation is no match for them. Their strength is comparable to a bodiless celestial who's stronger than an eminent celestial. Little White's heartbeat quickened when she saw Little Black and Little Gold about to fight. This legacy blood pool is too terrifying, isn't it? What kind of existence is that divine beast senior who calls himself a heavenly god-eater rat? Why is the legacy blood pool he left behind able to increase our strength by such an exaggerated amount? Currently, our strength is even stronger than that of an eminent celestial. However, since we haven't gone through the celestial ascension tribulation, it's impossible for us to pass the celestial ascension tribulation and become a bodiless celestial. Right now, how exactly are we living in this mundane plane? Little White was dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became, because this was no longer something she could understand. Little White, Little Black, and Little Gold only found out about the name Legacy Blood Pool later on. They came here because they were attracted by the blood-red lake. Moreover, they could clearly sense the heaven and earth spirit energy in the blood-red lake was much richer than the heaven and earth spirit energy in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. However, it was not ordinary heaven and earth spirit energy. When they entered the blood-red lake, the pure heaven and earth spirit energy surged into their bodies at an astonishing speed and quickly turned into energy in their bodies. They realized something was amiss. They had a feeling that this was a great opportunity. They had encountered a great fortuitous encounter. Just as their strength continued to increase, a strange part of their memories also appeared in their minds. The memory told them that the legacy blood pool was called the legacy blood pool. It was left behind by a senior who called himself a divine beast, the heavenly god-eater rat. His purpose was to develop his clansmen in the mundane realms. Based on the message left behind by the senior, they realized that they would be bound by the legacy blood pool. Once they were baptized by the legacy blood pool, they would be able to join one of the forces under the senior's control in the Devata realm. Not only would they be protected by the force, but they would also be able to save a lot of trouble. According to the senior, after we're baptized by the legacy blood pool, we'll be able to summon the celestial ascension force by activating the secret method in the memory. The celestial ascension force will lead us to the Devata realm. Little White thought to herself. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion rang in the air. Shockwaves spread out in all directions like ripples in the air. Wherever the shockwaves passed, terrifying cracks appeared in the void. When Little Black and Little Gold fought, the void was like a piece of paper, unable to withstand a single blow. However, this was only a warm-up for Little Black and Little Gold. The real battle had yet to begin. Oh, right. Suli? Where's Suli? Is he still in closed-door cultivation? Suddenly, Whitey thought of Suli, and she looked around before her figure flashed out. After searching for a long time, she was unable to find a trace of Suli. Splash. In the end, Little White descended from the sky and entered the legacy blood pool again. The legacy blood pool did not seem big. However, after entering it, Little White discovered that the legacy blood pool was too huge. She did not expect the legacy blood pool to be so huge. When I first came in, I was so focused on cultivating that I didn't pay attention to the legacy blood pool at all. I didn't expect that although the legacy blood pool doesn't look big from the outside, there's a whole other world inside. Although the legacy blood pool was huge, with Little White's current speed, it would not take long for her to search the entire legacy blood pool. She estimated it would only take her about 15 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. While Little White searched through the inheritance blood pool in an attempt to find Suli, earth-shaking noises continuously rang out in the sky above the inheritance blood pool. It even shook the blood in the inheritance blood pool to the point that it began to churn. Of course, the rippling of the blood in the legacy blood pool did not affect Little White's efficiency in looking for Suli. About a quarter of an hour later, Whitey also discovered that there was something strange going on. Suli was no longer in the legacy blood pool. Haha, Little Black, you're too weak. You lost to me in less than 100 moves. When Little White left the legacy blood pool and reappeared in the sky above the legacy blood pool, Little Black and Little Gold had also ended their battle. At the same time, Little Gold laughed loudly as it looked at Little Black. Humph! Little Black's expression darkened when he saw Little Gold's smug expression. A hint of resentment could be seen in his eyes. However, he felt a little helpless in his heart. Although the legacy blood pool had given him an earth-shattering transformation, the legacy blood pool was a fortuitous encounter left behind by a rat-type divine beast. It was undoubtedly more beneficial to Little Gold, who was also a rat-type divine beast. The legacy blood pool had allowed Little White and Little Black to transform into 8-clawed divine dragons and Little Gold to transform into a crimson-eyed celestial devouring rat. In the Devata realms, both 8-clawed divine dragons and crimson-eyed celestial devouring rats were celestial beasts. Moreover, they were not ordinary celestial beasts. Suli's gone. However, Little Gold and Little Black's expressions froze when they heard Little White's words. Then, the two of them looked at Whitey immediately. I can't find him anywhere. I've searched the entire legacy blood pool, but I can't find him. Facing the gazes of the two, Xiaobai said anxiously, Did something happen to him? I don't think so. Little Black was the first to regain his senses. He said solemnly, the legacy blood pool didn't just help us improve our cultivation bases. I'm sure Suli's cultivation base has improved as well. Moreover, his foundation is also stronger than ours. After he's improved in there, his strength should still be stronger than ours. Little Black paused for a moment before he continued to say, perhaps the legacy blood pool has improved a lot. Perhaps he has used the secret method left behind by that senior to attract the celestial ascension force and ascended to the Devata realm. Little Hay voiced its judgment. That's possible. Little Gold nodded. Little White felt the same way, and the anxious expression on her face eased slightly. However, Suli can ascend to the Devata realm, but we can't. Little Gold's eyes flashed as she said, currently, the devil clans are wreaking havoc in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Perhaps they have already invaded the upper province. We have to go to the upper province to look for Sister Xuanai and Brother Ling Tian. Now that we're strong enough, we have to protect them. Little Gold's words echoed Little Black and Little White's thoughts. Although they could ascend to the Devata realm now, they did not dare to do so. Nevertheless, they did not plan to leave just like that. After all, they still had many things to do in the Dao Martial Saint Land. They had to protect those who treated them as their family and help the humans defeat the devil clans. Even if it was not for the humans, they had to do it for the people they cared about. Let's go. When Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold left, they discovered that the formation of the legacy blood pool was still in effect. They discovered the formations they had encountered on their way to the Dow Marshall Saint Land were still closed when they left. Unless they walked back, it would not be triggered at all. Upon realizing this, the three of them who had been cautious suddenly sped up. In just a blink of an eye, they had left the formation that enveloped the legacy blood pool. It did not take long before they left the land of exile and returned to the Saint Province realm where the Dow Marshall Saint Land was located. The devil clans have really invaded the upper province. Chapter 24-27. In the Devata realms, great overarching golden celestials and above would be tainted by the karma of the mundane world if they entered the mundane realms. If it was light, it would affect their cultivation base, and if it was heavy, their cultivation base would stagnate. For this reason, many great overarching golden celestials and above did not have the courage to return to the mundane realms even though they cared about their juniors. Even if it was just a celestial supreme treasure or a divine ability from the Devata realms, they would not hesitate to leave behind a celestial supreme treasure or a divine ability for their juniors. However, this was nothing to some of the powerful forces in the Devata realms. For example, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White had obtained a great fortuitous encounter. The legacy blood pool was a treasure refined by a powerful figure from a powerful force in the Devata realms. He would send someone to place it in the mundane realms. The treasure was protected by multiple formations. Unless one was summoned, even the strongest 9 tribulation bodiless celestial in the mundane realms would not be able to break through the formations and get close to the legacy blood pool. If Little Gold had not sensed the summoning of the legacy blood pool and mastered the method to break the formations, Little Black and Little White would not have been able to get close to the legacy blood pool, let alone obtain benefits from it. Naturally, the powerful figure from the powerful force in the Devata realms would not only refine a treasure that contained a legacy blood pool. Usually, he would refine tens of thousands of such treasures at once. To him, these treasures were just a piece of cake. He could refine them with just a thought. After he was done refining the treasures, he passed them to his subordinates and instructed them to go to the various mundane realms and place the treasures that contained the legacy blood pool in them, waiting for the fated ones to find them. The fated ones that could be summoned by the legacy blood pool were usually some gifted rat-type sacred beasts from the mundane planes. This was because only gifted rat-type sacred beasts would be chosen by the legacy blood pool. Little Gold happened to be chosen by the powerful figure's subordinate who had placed the legacy blood pool in the exiled realm. The people who placed the legacy blood pools in the mundane realms were the subordinates of the powerful figures in the Devata realms. Most of them had limited innate talent, and their cultivation bases were stuck at the great overarching golden celestial stage. To them, even if they did not go to the mundane realms and were not tainted by the mundane karma, it would be difficult for them to improve their cultivation base as great overarching golden celestials. Since that was the case, what did they have to fear about heading to the various large mundane realms? Moreover, if they worked for that great figure, they would be able to obtain many benefits. Why not do something that was beneficial and harmless to them? Go. Let's return to the upper province of the Dow Marshall Saint Land. When Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold learned that the devil clans from the Debussy subterranean had invaded the upper province, they hurried to the upper province as well. At the same time, she was a little nervous. Brother Ling Tian and Sister Xuanai should be fine, right? As they made their way to the upper province, they began to talk about Su Li. I wonder if Su Li has ascended to a Devata realm. If he's in his Devata realm, it's possible that he has already ascended to a Devata realm. That's right. Unless he's clear-headed, he'll most likely cast the secret technique left behind by the rat-type divine beast senior and ascend to the Devata realm. I think he has already ascended to a Devata realm. Based on Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold's words, they were certain Su Li had already ascended to a Devata realm. However, they did not expect that Su Li would not be able to ascend to a Devata realm. Not only had Su Li not ascended to a Devata realm, but he had also ascended to a Devata realm. Moreover, Suli did not obtain the same fortuitous encounter as they did after entering the Legacy Blood Pool. This was because the Legacy Blood Pool was left behind by a rat-type divine beast and not a human powerhouse. For this reason, the Legacy Blood Pool he refined would reject humans. Naturally, he had purposely excluded humans. After all, the Devata realm he was in was a celestial beast clan that prohibited humans from joining. Previously, when Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold entered the Legacy Blood Pool and went into closed-door cultivation, Suli, who had also entered the Legacy Blood Pool, was sent out immediately. This was because there was a transportation formation in the Legacy Blood Pool that targeted humans. As long as a human entered the Legacy Blood Pool, they would be teleported out immediately. For this reason, Suli was sent out as soon as Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold entered closed-door cultivation. Perhaps only Suli himself would know where he was at this moment. According to the law of the mundane realms, ordinary cultivators and bodiless celestials have to undergo the heavenly tribulation before they can ascend to a Devata realm. After returning to the upper province, Little Gold muttered to herself, "Although we've gained strength comparable to bodiless celestials and can ascend to the Devata realms at any time, we're still in the upper province. However, we don't have to face the heavenly tribulation." What's going on? Regarding this, Xiao Jin was puzzled. Generally speaking, ordinary cultivators at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage would have to undergo the Celestial Ascension Tribulation before they could ascend to a Devata realm. Unlike ordinary cultivators, bodiless celestials would also have to undergo the 10th bodiless celestial tribulation before they could ascend to a Devata realm. Only by overcoming the 10th bodiless celestial tribulation would one be able to ascend to a Devata realm a second time. However, Little Black, Little White, and Little Black did not have to undergo the heavenly tribulation to ascend to a Devata realm. I'm curious as well. What's going on? Little Gold was not the only one who was puzzled. Even Little White was puzzled by this. Although Xiao He did not finish speaking, the confusion in his eyes was enough to show that his current thoughts were the same as Xiao Jin and Xiao Bai's. In fact, the reason the three of them did not have to undergo the heavenly tribulation was because the Legacy Blood Pool had helped them deceive the Heaven Tao of the mundane realms while they were in closed-door cultivation. Generally speaking, whether it was the Celestial Ascension Tribulation for powerhouses at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, the Bodiless Celestial Tribulation for bodiless celestials, or the 9-9 Heavenly Tribulation from the Lightning Penalty Oath, they were all caused by the law of heaven. However, if it was a force that transcended the Devata realms, it would be able to hide from the law of heaven. This was similar to the illegal immigration in Duan Lingtian's previous life. In the future, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White would have to smuggle themselves into the Devata realms since they did not have permission from the mundane realms to enter the Devata realms. In fact, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White were not the only stowaways in the Saint Province realm. Even Duan Lingtian's wife, Kerr, could be considered as a stowaway to a certain extent. Ever since Kerr had used extreme methods to gradually awaken the memories of her previous life, her strength had also increased rapidly. Although she had broken through to the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, she did not attract the Celestial Ascension Tribulation. This was because Kerr's strength was not restricted by the law of heaven in the mundane realms. Due to this reason, the law of heaven could not detect her strength. Under such circumstances, it was only natural that the Celestial Ascension Tribulation would not affect her. All of this was something that Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White couldn't understand. Let's return and have a look. After returning to the upper province, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White immediately made their way to the northern region. Along the way, they encountered many devils. However, none of the devils were at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. These devils were, naturally, no match for Little Gold, Little White, and Little White. It was to the extent that any one of Xiao Jin's trio could annihilate them with a single breath. Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White were making their way to the northern region. They were about to return to the 7 Absolutes sect's temporary estate in the northern region. In the northern region, an uninvited guest appeared in the ice mountain valley that was shrouded in white mist all year round. Swoosh! Although the uninvited guest did not cause a huge commotion, it still alerted everyone in the valley. Who's there? The few people in the Ice Mountain Valley were none other than the Oracle Man from the Seven Absolutes sect, Ganru Yin, Qing Hua, and Duan Lingtian and Ker's daughter, Duan Siling. The uninvited guest was a handsome young man. His robe was completely soaked in blood. Some of the blood was still dripping from his robe. It was obvious that the fresh blood had just been stained. "Sir, this is private property. Please leave at once." Qing Hua, the strongest among them, stepped forward and said to the young man with a dark expression on his face. When the young man heard Qing Hua's words, his blood-red eyes shone with devil chi as he stared at Qing Hua coldly. Qing Hua's heart skipped a beat. Boom! A powerful and ruthless aura surged out of the young man's body and shrouded Qing Hua. Qing Hua's body trembled from the pressure, and the ice mountain beneath his feet began to crack. 2 spiderwebs appeared and spread out in all directions. Barf! At the same time, Qing Hua, who could not withstand the pressure, threw up a mouthful of blood. His blood stained the ground. It was dazzling. "Master!" Ganru Yan's expression changed drastically. The Oracle Man's expression turned grave as well. He did not expect the uninvited guest to be so powerful. Just his aura alone was enough to injure Qing Hua, the strongest among them. "You're seeking death." Chapter 24-28. You're seeking death. As soon as the blood-eyed young man spoke, his saint origin that exuded monstrous devil chi surged out of his hand. In just a blink of an eye, his saint origin transformed into a 3-foot-long sword filled with killing intent. The blood-eyed young man glared at Qing Hua with murderous intent in his eyes. Just as he was about to make a move to kill Qing Hua, a voice rang in the air. Suddenly, a voice rang from one of the wooden houses in the valley. "Auntie, who's here? Did father and the others come out?" The voice belonged to a young girl. The girl looked like she was only in her teens, but she was already showing signs of a devastatingly beautiful face. It was not difficult to imagine. When the young girl grew up, she would definitely be a peerless beauty. When the young lady appeared, the blood-eyed young man, who was staring at Qing Hua intending to attack him, instantly shifted his gaze to her. The appearance of the young girl had successfully diverted the blood-eyed young man's attention. Oh no! Although Qing Hua managed to escape death, his expression changed drastically when the blood-eyed young man shifted his attention to the young girl. Siling. Ganru Yan's expression changed as well. She did not expect the young girl would appear at this moment. The young girl who appeared after hearing the commotion was none other than Duan Lingtian and Ker's daughter, Duan Siling. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of wind whistling rang in the air as the old prophet and Ganru Yin appeared in front of Duan Siling one after another. They shielded her behind them like 2 wolves protecting their cub. To Ganru Yin, Duan Siling was her niece, her younger sister's daughter. She was willing to sacrifice everything for Duan Siling, including her life. As for the Oracle Man, Duan Siling was the daughter of the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect. He had dedicated his life to the Seven Absolutes sect. Now that the sect leader's daughter was in danger, it was only natural for him to step forward. Scram! Both Ganru Yin and the Oracle Man felt a powerful force colliding with them and sending them flying. Ganru Yin was still fine as she quickly stopped moving. The Oracle Man, who had a weaker cultivation, was heavily smashed into the ground in the distance. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his gray robe was dyed red. "Auntie, Grandpa Tianji." At this moment, Duan Siling finally regained her senses. Her expression changed immediately. Duan Siling shouted out of concern for Ganru Yin and the Oracle Man. Whoosh! Like a gust of wind, the red-eyed young man appeared in front of Duan Siling in just a blink of an eye. Duan Siling was only a teenage girl after all. She was so frightened that her face turned pale. Her body was so stiff that it was as though lead had been poured into her body when she saw the blood-red-eyed young man who exuded a murderous aura. "Your Excellency, she is only a child." "You." Qing Hua wanted to say something, but before he could finish his sentence, he was sent flying by the red-eyed young man. He followed in the footsteps of Ganru Yin and the Oracle Man. In just a blink of an eye, 3 people were injured. "You." Ganru Yin wanted to say something, but Qing Hua stopped her. "Ru Yin, let's watch first. I don't think he has any killing intent toward Sealing. In fact, his killing intent toward me seems to be suppressed when he looks at Sealing, Qinghua reminded Gan Ruyin through voice transmission. He had just discovered this as well. Upon hearing this, Gan Ruyin studied the blood-eyed young man for a while. When the blood-eyed young man stood in front of Duan Sealing, the killing intent on his body vanished. It was to the extent that the blood-red color in his eyes seemed to have faded a little. What's he doing? For a moment, Gan Ruyin, Qinghua, and even the Oracle man were stunned. After a while, the red in the red-eyed young man's eyes disappeared, and his expression returned to normal. At this moment, it was as though he had transformed into a different person. A warm smile appeared on his originally cold face. At the same time, he looked at Duan Sealing and asked, "What do you think?" He looked at Duan Sealing and asked, "What's your relationship with Duan Lingtian? I think you look a little like him." It was as though he had transformed into a completely different person in just a blink of an eye as he looked at Duan Sealing. For a moment, Gan Ruyin, Qinghua, and the Oracle man were petrified. Before this, no matter how hard they racked their brains, they would not have expected the young man to say such a thing. Duan Lingtian? He knows Duan Lingtian? Gan Ruyin was stunned when she regained her senses. Did he see that Sealing looks like Guardian Lingtian? Is that why he acted this way? Qinghua was dumbfounded. He knows sect leader? The Oracle man had an incredulous expression on his face. However, at this moment, whether it was Gan Ruyin, Qinghua, or the Oracle man, they could not help but heave a sigh of relief. At the very least, they knew Duan Sealing would not be in any danger. You know my father? The fear in Duan Sealing's heart dissipated when she heard the young man's words. She was so frightened that her body was frozen stiff. However, when she heard the young man's words, the fear in her heart dissipated. When she looked at the young man again, apart from the fear in her eyes, there was a hint of curiosity. "Father, you're Duan Lingtian's daughter? That fellow has a daughter?" The young man was stunned for a moment before he laughed. After a while, he sighed softly. "That's true. I haven't seen him for many years. Who are you? How do you know my father?" The fear in Duan Sealing's eyes gradually faded away. Instead, the curiosity in her eyes intensified. "I'm your father's friend. Of course, I know him." The young man smiled. "You're my father's friend?" Duan Sealing asked skeptically. "Who are you? Even if I haven't met my father's friend, I've heard of him. I'm Suli. Has your father mentioned me before?" The smile on the young man's face widened. "Suli?" Upon hearing the young man's words, Qinghua and the Oracle man were confused. They had never heard of this name before. Even Gan Ruyin could not help but frown. She had never heard of this name before. "Suli? Your Uncle Suli?" Unlike Qinghua, the Oracle man, and Gan Ruyin who were confused, Duan Sealing cried out excitedly when she heard the young man's words. "Uncle Suli, I've heard my father mention you before. Both of you met in Iron Blood City on Cloud Continent. At that time, both of you participated in the selection for the Iron Blood Army's Genius Camp, right? My father said that was the first time he met you." The fear in Duan Sealing's heart had completely disappeared when she spoke. When she looked at Suli again, she was no longer frightened. Instead, she sized Suli up with curiosity. Her bright eyes kept turning. Cloud Continent, Iron Blood City, Iron Blood Army's Genius Camp. Upon hearing Duan Sealing's words, the young man, Suli, seemed to be in a daze. After a while, he regained his senses. He looked at Duan Sealing and said with a smile, "I didn't expect your father to tell you this. Where's your father now?" Suli asked. "Father has entered the Sword Saint secret zone," Duan Sealing replied. Duan Sealing said as she looked at the bottomless black hole hovering in the air. A hint of longing could be seen in her beautiful eyes at this moment. Sword Saint secret zone? Suli's gaze shifted to the black hole in the distance. "In that case, this is the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone?" "Yes." As soon as Duan Sealing responded, the aura on Suli's body that had calmed down began to surge again. It was as though a pot of boiling water had been boiled. A ruthless aura surged out of his body and swept out in all directions, causing Duan Xiling's expression to change drastically. Boom! In just a blink of an eye, the devil chi on Su Li's body surged again. His eyes, which had returned to normal, had once again turned blood red. They were filled with ruthlessness. Uncle Su Li? Duan Xiling's expression changed when she saw Su Li had returned to his original appearance. She could not help but call out to him softly. Whoosh! 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 At some point in time, the 3-foot-long blade in Su Li's hand that had dissipated earlier had reformed as the saint origin that was shrouded in devil chi surged out of his body. Not only that, but it was also emitting a piercing sound. No, no, no. Su Li did not respond to Duan Xiling's greeting. He stood there, trembling violently as he muttered incoherently, "Thank you." It was as though it was extremely difficult for him to say those words. Whoosh! The sound of sword whistling rang in the air as Su Li raised his hand and swung his sword at Duan Xiling. No. Gan Ruyan's expression changed drastically when she saw Su Li swinging his sword at Duan Xiling. Whoosh! Whoosh! Qinghua and the Oracle Man's expressions changed drastically at this moment. If something happened to Duan Xiling under their watch, how were they going to explain themselves to Duan Lingtian when he came out? Uncle Su Li. Duan Xiling's face was filled with disbelief when Su Li swung his sword at her. She did not expect Su Li would be so close to her. She did not expect Su Li, her father's best friend, would attack her after finding out she was her father's daughter. Chapter 24-29. Xiu. The sword chi shot toward Duan Xiling like a bolt of lightning. Chi. A soft sound rang in the air. It was the sound of something being cut. Gan Ruyan's body trembled when she heard that voice. She could not help but close her eyes as her heart seemed to have stopped beating. Swoosh! Swoosh! Qinghua and the Oracle Man's expressions changed drastically at this moment. However, their expressions froze in an instant. A hint of shock could be seen in their eyes. This was because they saw the sound of something cutting through the air. It was not the sound of Su Li killing Duan Xiling. It was the sound of Su Li's sword cutting through a strand of hair beside Duan Xiling's ear. He did not hurt her at all. Roar! A beast-like roar rang in the air. Su Li's eyes were bloodshot as he looked up at the sky. His handsome face was twitching as though he was struggling with something. Don't touch her. Qinghua and the Oracle Man realized something was amiss when Su Li spat out those words. It did not seem like Su Li's actions were his own. There seemed to be another force controlling him. Swoosh! While Qinghua and the old prophet were still in shock, Su Li's body flashed as though he had transformed into a bolt of lightning. He shot toward the black hole that was the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In just a blink of an eye, Su Li disappeared into the black hole. Uncle Su Li. Before Su Li left, Duan Xiling opened her eyes. She could clearly see the conflicted look in Su Li's eyes. At this moment, she could not help but feel something was amiss. The person who had attacked her was not her Uncle Su Li. Instead, it was the devil that was hiding in her Uncle Su Li's body and temporarily occupying his body. Otherwise, how could her Uncle Su Li be a completely different person from before? Xiling. At this moment, Gan Ruyan, who had just opened her eyes and discovered Duan Xiling was fine, could not help but feel excited. It was as though she had encountered a joyous occasion. But to her now, it was indeed a joyous occasion that her niece was fine. Just now, what happened? That Su Li, when he changed into a different person, it was more like he was being controlled by some kind of power. After his eyes turned completely red, he gave me the feeling that he was a pure demon, not a human. Qinghua and the Elder of Heavenly Secrets glanced at each other. As they conversed, they confirmed one thing. Su Li did not have a choice when he attacked Duan Xiling. However, even if he couldn't control himself, he still managed to stop the force that was controlling his body in the end and successfully made the sword deviate from its original trajectory, even though they were unable to capture the trajectory of that sword strike. However, they were certain of one thing. The force that controlled Su Li's body would not have swung the sword for no reason. Since it had swung the sword, it must have wanted to kill Duan Xiling. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for the sword to miss. However, At the critical moment, the sword did not land on Duan Siling. Instead, it only took a strand of hair from Duan Siling's ear. Uncle Su Li, how did he become like this? Upon hearing Qinghua and the old prophet's words, Duan Siling, who was still in a state of shock, was certain of one thing. Her hunch was right. For this reason, a hint of worry could be seen in her eyes. She could see that her Uncle Su Li was not in a good condition when he left. Little Siling, did you really hear about him from your father? Moreover, he's from Cloud Continent? At this moment, the Oracle man looked at Duan Siling and asked. Yes. Duan Siling nodded. Father has mentioned Uncle Su Li more than once. He said Uncle Su Li is a good friend of his. When he left Cloud Continent, his biggest regret was not being able to see Uncle Su Li again. After that, Father has never seen Uncle Su Li again. I didn't expect Uncle Su Li would appear here. Duan Siling replied. That's right. Why is he here? Upon hearing Duan Siling's words, whether it was the Oracle man, Qinghua, or Gan Ruyin, all of them were stunned. They did not believe Su Li had come here by chance. The upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was so huge. Although it was possible for someone to come here by chance, if that person was Duan Lingtian's old friend, they felt it was impossible for such a coincidence to happen. In fact, it was impossible for such a coincidence to happen. The reason Su Li was able to find this place was because Little Gold had brought him to the Legacy Blood Pool when he was in the Land of Exile. Previously, when he entered the Legacy Blood Pool, although he was immediately sent out, he could clearly sense the spirit energy in the Legacy Blood Pool. It left a deep impression on him. Currently, the entrance of the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone, where the black hole was also filled with the same spirit energy. However, it was much thinner. However, it was still detected by Su Li, who had just arrived in the upper province and entered the western province. If Su Li was in his normal state, he would not be able to sense this place. However, Su Li, who was in his devilified state, happened to sense this place and barged in as soon as he sensed it. That was how the subsequent events had unfolded. Senior Uncle Prophet, Uncle Su Li will be fine, right? Duan Siling asked as she looked at the Oracle man. She was certain Su Li had no choice but to do so. A hint of anticipation could be seen in the depths of her eyes. She hoped the Oracle man would tell her that her Uncle Su Li would be fine. I think he'll be fine. And the Elder of Heavenly Secrets had indeed responded to her in this manner. Looking at his appearance, he can still barely manage to interfere with himself after he loses control. From this point, it can be seen that this situation of his is not something that happened in a day or two. For this reason, you don't have to worry about him. The Oracle man comforted Duan Siling when he reached the end of his sentence. All right. Duan Siling felt much better after being comforted by the Oracle man. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 days later, another 3 uninvited guests arrived at the Ice Mountain Valley. Why are all of you here? The Oracle man was taken aback when he saw the 3 uninvited guests. It was because the 3 people that had appeared before him now were none other than the 2 little pythons and the little gold mouse from all those years ago. Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold. He could still remember. Previously, he was the one who asked Yu Wu Ying to bring them back to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. This was because he had performed a divination for the 3 of them. He had vaguely predicted that the 3 of them would encounter a fortuitous encounter in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Although he had only vaguely predicted it and was not certain, he still asked Yu Wu Ying to do it. After all, riches and honor came with risk. Old Man Prophet, the golden-clad little girl glared at the Oracle man when she saw him again. She said angrily, "Why did you ask Yu Wu Ying to send us away? You even threw us into the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land where the devil clans wreak havoc. You're trying to get us killed." It had been a few days since they returned to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White had learned about the things that happened in the past through the information network of the 7 Absolute Sects Red Dust Progeny. This included the matter of the Oracle man asking Yu Wu Ying to bring the 3 of them to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Although they were aware that the Oracle man had divined that there would be an opportunity for the 3 of them in the lower district, which was why he had done that. However, Because the old man of heavenly secrets did not discuss this with them beforehand, they felt extremely displeased. Now, not only was Xiao Jian glaring at the Oracle Man furiously, but Xiao He was also glaring at the Oracle Man coldly. Even Little White, who had the best temper among the three, revealed an unfriendly expression when she looked at Old Man Tianji at this moment. Judging from your current appearances, you must have obtained a great opportunity in the lower province, right? Although Xiao Jin and the other two did not deliberately reveal their auras, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets could still vaguely sense that something was different about them from the brand new aura they unconsciously exuded. Therefore, he guessed Little Gold and the others had most likely obtained the fortuitous encounter that he divined. Lower province? Great opportunity? When Little Gold heard the Oracle Man's words, she was stunned. Then, she could not help but curse. What kind of fortuitous encounter is there in the Debussy subterranean? What? You didn't obtain any fortuitous encounter? The Oracle Man's expression changed. He lowered his eyes and muttered, Could it be? Could it be that I've divined wrongly? When he sent Little Gold and the others away, he had taken a risk. Now that Little Gold said there was no fortuitous encounter in the lower province, it was only natural that he thought he had divined wrongly. Hey! At this moment, Duan Siling looked at Little Gold and said with a displeased expression on her face, Little girl, you're quite cute, but why are you so rude? Grandpa Prophet is an elder. You can't speak to him like that. As Duan Siling spoke, she began to educate the golden-clad little girl who was much younger than her. Siling. Duan Siling did not see that Little Gold was not to be trifled with, but Ganru Yin could see it. Her expression changed immediately. Who are you, little girl? Chapter 24:30. Duan Siling was slightly annoyed when she heard Little Gold's words. Her gaze subconsciously swept across the black-clothed little boy and white-clothed little girl not far away. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. Why you're Little Gold, right? Duan Siling asked as she looked at the golden-clad little girl. The golden-clad little girl who had glanced at Duan Siling impatiently studied her when she heard Duan Siling's question. After a while, she realized something was amiss. This girl, who was about 10 years old, looked somewhat familiar. However, she was certain she had never seen this girl before. Who are you? How do you know me? Did old man Tianji tell you? The golden-clad little girl asked. You're really Little Gold? Duan Siling exclaimed excitedly when she heard the golden-clad little girl's question. If you're Little Gold, then they're Little Black and Little White, right? Duan Siling glanced at the black-clad little boy and white-clad little girl as she spoke. Immediately, the two men's gazes landed on her. Little Black, don't you think she looks familiar? At this moment, the white-clad little girl who was looking at Duan Siling said to the black-clad little boy standing next to her. The black-clad little boy nodded. He also felt the girl before him looked familiar. Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White? It's them. Ganru Yin was Ker's elder sister. When she was with Ker, she had heard about the little gold mouse and the two little pythons from Ker. She had also learned about the little girl. The three little fellows had followed Han Shu and I to the Seven Absolutes sect before the Oracle Man sent them away. She did not expect them to return now. Ganru Yin knew the three little fellows were Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White. She was certain they would not harm her niece. 09 Little Saynet. This was because her niece was the daughter of the person they cared about the most. You. Who are you? Why do I feel you look familiar? I'm sure I've never seen you before. But you. Little White looked at Duan Siling in confusion. She could not figure out why she felt someone she had never seen before looked familiar. Furthermore, she could see the shadows of two people in this person at the same time. And those two people were very important to her. Her name is Duan Siling, Ganru Yin said as she looked at Little Gold, Little White, and Little Black. Little Gold and the other two immediately shifted their gazes to Ganru Yin. Sister Ker? Whitey's eyes lit up when it saw Ganru Yin. Its tender cheeks trembled in excitement. No, she's not Sister Ker. However, Little Gold's eyes only lit up for a moment before they dimmed again. Although she looks exactly like Sister Ker, she's not Sister Ker. Sister Ker's aura isn't like this. Previously, When she could not transform into a human, she would often stay in Sister Kerr's sleeve. Therefore, she was very familiar with Sister Kerr's aura. She's not Sister Kerr. Little Black, who had a cold expression on his face, spoke up. With Little Gold and Little Black's reminder, Little White gradually suppressed her excitement. She also discovered that Duan's ceiling was different. Although the woman in front of her looked exactly the same as her big sister Kuer, her temperament was completely different from her big sister Kuer. Indeed, I'm not your sister Kerr, Gon Ru Yin said again. I'm your sister Kerr's twin sister, Gon Ru Yin. As for Ceiling, she's the daughter of your sister Kerr and your brother Ling Tian. As Gon Ru Yin introduced herself, she looked at Duan's Ceiling, Sister Kerr and brother Ling Tian's daughter. No wonder I find her familiar. It's as though I saw Sister Kerr and brother Ling Tian's silhouettes in her. As it turns out, she's Sister Kerr and brother Ling Tian's daughter. The moment Gon Ru Yan's words left her mouth, Little Gold and Little White were so excited that they flew out immediately. They circled Duan's ceiling and sized her up. Their eyes shone brightly as well. 09 Little, said Net. Although Little Black did not move, his gaze when he looked at Duan's ceiling had turned gentle. There was even a hint of affection in his eyes. I didn't expect Sister Kerr and brother Ling Tian's daughter to have grown so big in just a blink of an eye. Your ceiling, right? I'm your Aunt Little Gold. Little Gold smiled as she looked at Duan's ceiling. Her tone was so gentle that it was as though she was a completely different person from when she first arrived. You look younger than me. I won't call you Aunt Little Gold. However, Duan's ceiling shook her head and refused to address Little Gold, who was much younger than her, as auntie. It made sense when he thought about it. It was indeed very difficult for a teenager to call a little girl who looked like she was 8 or 9 years old Annie. You. Little Gold was infuriated when she heard Duan's ceiling's words. However, she could not bear to be angry at Duan's ceiling, so she said gently, Ceiling, you're a good girl. When Aunt Little Gold met your parents, you weren't even born yet. You should call me Aunt Little Gold. Little Gold did not give up. She wanted to hear Duan's ceiling address her as auntie. However, Duan's ceiling refused to call her Aunt Little Gold. In the end, Little Gold was so angry that she felt like her lungs were about to explode. However, she could not bear to be angry at Duan's ceiling. After all, Duan's ceiling was the product of the love between the two most important people in her life. Therefore, she treated Duan's ceiling like her own daughter and doted on her. All right, Little Gold. If Ceiling doesn't want to call you Aunt Little Gold, just don't call her Aunt Little Gold. Why do you care about how you address her? Little White shook her head and said with a smile. In her eyes, Ceiling was just a child who needed to be protected. Why should he be so serious about a child? All right. In front of Duan's Ceiling, Little Gold had lost her temper. She was as docile as a cat. Ceiling, I'm Little Black. How are brother Ling Tian and sister Kerr? At this moment, Little Black walked up to Duan's Ceiling with a warm smile on his cold face. His eyes were filled with affection as he looked at Duan's Ceiling. Father and mother have entered the Sword Saint's secret zone. Upon hearing Little Black's words, Duan's Ceiling looked at the black hole hovering in the air and said, Uncle Suli has also entered the secret zone. A worried expression appeared on Duan's Ceiling's face when she mentioned Suli. What? As soon as Duan's Ceiling finished speaking, Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White's expressions changed drastically. Suli didn't ascend? Moreover, he's in the Sword Saint's secret zone? Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White thought Suli had ascended to the Devata realm after obtaining the legacy blood pool. They did not expect Suli would not ascend to the Devata realm. Moreover, he even found this place. They were not surprised that Suli managed to find this place. After all, when they could not find Han Shuanai and the others at the nameless snow-capped peak in the northern region, they had sensed an aura coming from this place. If they had not come into contact with the legacy blood pool, they would not have noticed the aura at all. However, since they had come into contact with the legacy blood pool, they were certain of it. Although the aura was very faint, it was exactly the same as the aura of the spiritual energy that filled the legacy blood pool. For this reason, they followed the aura and found this iceberg valley. They did not expect to see the Oracle Man as soon as they entered the iceberg valley. Ceiling, did you say Suli was here? Did he enter the secret zone from here? Little White asked as she looked at Duan Siling solemnly.
Yes.
Duan Siling nodded. After a brief conversation with Little White, Duan Siling finally understood why Su Li seemed to have transformed into a different person. As it turned out, Su Li had become like that because he had obtained the Devil Clan's legacy. Occasionally, he would return to normal, but at other times, he would enter the devilification state. Su Li, he attacked you with his sword? Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold's expressions darkened when they learned Su Li had attacked Duan Siling with his sword. Previously, they had treated Su Li well because Su Li was Ling Tian's friend. However, Duan Siling was Ling Tian's daughter and Ker's daughter. Between Su Li and Duan Siling, it was only natural that Duan Siling was more important to them. Siling, are you all right? Little White and Little Gold moved closer to Duan Siling and studied her from head to toe. Their expressions were filled with concern as though they were trying to confirm if she was injured. I'm fine. Duan Siling shook her head lightly. At that time, Uncle Su Li was struggling to stop him from entering the devilification state. That's why he only managed to cut a strand of my hair. That's good. That's good. Upon hearing Duan Siling's words, Little White and Little Gold heaved a sigh of relief. Although Little Black didn't say anything, his originally tense and solemn face completely relaxed at this moment. Old Prophet, where's Sister Xuanai? Xiao Jin looked at the old man of heavenly secrets and asked. Aunt Xuanai has entered the Sword Saint's secret zone as well. Duan Siling replied. Does this mean Brother Ling Tian, Sister Ker, and the others have reunited with Sister Xuanai? Little White's eyes lit up. They've been together for a long time. Father is still the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect. Duan Siling raised her head proudly. The sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect? Chapter 24:31. Since Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold were sent to the lower province of the Dao Martial Saintland by Yu Wuing under the orders of the Oracle Man, they did not know what happened in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland after that. With Duan Siling's reminder and Gan Ruyan's explanation, they learned about what had happened after they left the upper province. Big Brother Ling Tian is actually the current successor of the first absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, the Fog Rain progeny. Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold had long known that the successor of the Seven Absolutes sect's first absolute, the Misty Rain lineage, was about to be born. Furthermore, they had privately discussed what kind of person the successor of the Misty Rain lineage would be like. However, never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that the current successor of the first absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, the Fog Rain lineage, was actually their big brother Ling Tian. This is too inconceivable, right? This is too dreamy. Xiao Jin and Xiao Bai looked at each other and saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. Once the successor of the Seven Absolutes sect's first absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, was born, he would be the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect. They knew this as well. It turned out that they were still a little unconvinced in their hearts. They felt that even if the successor of the Misty Rain sect was born, he did not have the qualifications to be their sister Xuanai's head, but now, they no longer thought so because the successor of the Misty Rain sect was their big brother Ling Tian. Guli is dead, and Yu Wuing, Sister Xuanai's master, is dead? Soon after, Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold also learned about the death of the third and fourth absolutes of the Seven Absolutes sect. All of a sudden, they fell silent. At this moment, the resentment they had for Yu Wuing was completely gone. After all, the dead had to be respected. Dragons. At the same time, their eyes were burning with rage, as if they could burn everything. To a certain extent, they could not be considered members of the Seven Absolutes sect. However, since their sister Xuanai was a member of the Seven Absolutes sect, they had always considered themselves as members of the Seven Absolutes sect. Especially now that they knew that the current sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect was their big brother Ling Tian, they felt even more strongly that they were members of the Seven Absolutes sect. The Seven Absolutes sect's disciples were killed, so they were naturally enraged. However, even though they were furious, they did not lose their rationality. After all, the dragons were not an ordinary force. They even had a supreme elder who was a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial. The strongest person among the dragons is the patriarch of the dragon's inner clan. Rumor has it that the patriarch of the dragons is at least an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial. He might even be a 9-tribulation bodiless celestial. At this moment, Qinghua could not help but interject with a solemn expression. Old man Tianji, this sword saint's secret realm, we can also enter, right? Xiao Jin looked at the oracle man and asked, according to the Seven Absolute sect, it's very difficult for those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage to survive after entering the Sword Saint's secret realm. You guys. The oracle man hesitated when he reached the end of his sentence. Although he could vaguely sense that Xiao Jin and the other two were different from before based on their auras, however, since Xiao Jian had said that they did not obtain any fortuitous encounter in the WCI subterranean, he instinctively assumed that they had not obtained any fortuitous encounter in the WCI subterranean. It was very likely that Xiao Jin and the other two were not even at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage? Xiao Jin could not help but laugh when she heard the oracle man's words. She smiled faintly and said, Old man Tianji, I only said that we did not obtain any fortuitous encounter in the WCI subterranean. However, we did obtain a fortuitous encounter in the WCI subterranean, the land of exile. Little black, little white, let's go. As soon as Xiao Jin finished speaking, she called out to little black and little white. Whoosh. Following that, the power in his body skyrocketed. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a rapid cannonball that directly charged into the black hole that was suspended in the void not far away. Ceiling, little black and I will go in first as well. We'll play with you when we come out. Little White said to Duan Ceiling before she and Little Black followed Xiao Jin into the black hole. In just a blink of an eye, Xiao Jin, Little Black, and Little White had disappeared. However, before Xiao Jin and the other two left, their powerful auras caused the Oracle Man, Qinghua, and Gan Ruyan's hearts to skip a beat. That aura, even the aura of an eminent celestial can't compare to them, right? Qinghua's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. It seems like they obtained a fortuitous encounter. In fact, the Oracle Man's eyes had lit up when Xiao Jin and the other two said they had obtained a fortuitous encounter in the land of exile. Now that he had sensed the auras of Xiao Jin and the other two left and heard Hua Lao's words, his eyes lit up even more. At the same time, he realized he had made the right choice. Fortunately, he had sent the three little fellows to the lower province. Otherwise, they would have missed out on a great fortuitous encounter. Even the aura of an eminent celestial can't compare to Little Black and the other two. Duan Ceiling was shocked by Qinghua's words. She looked at Qinghua in shock and asked, Grandpa Qinghua, based on your words, does this mean Little Black and the other two are comparable to a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial? Indeed, their strength is comparable to a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. Moreover, I have a feeling that even a 4 or 5 tribulation bodiless celestial might not be as strong as them. Whether it was a 4 or 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, Qinghua had encountered them in the Zoroastrianism's estate. The 4 tribulation bodiless celestial he had encountered was Li Bing, the ancestor of the Zoroastrianism. As for the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, it was the 7-clawed golden dragon, Di Chun. However, no matter if it was Li Bing or Di Chun, when they attacked, the aura that they emitted was inferior to Xiao Jin and the other two. Qinghua knew very well what this meant. This meant Xiao Jin and the other two might be stronger than Di Chun. Di Chun was a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial who was very close to becoming a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. If Xiao Jin and the other two were stronger than him, it meant they were comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. What? Hearing Qinghua's words, Elder Tianji could not help but be shocked. He knew Xiao Jin and the other two's strength was comparable to a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, it did not cross his mind that Xiao Jin and the other two's strength had surpassed a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Those 3 little fellows already possess strength that surpasses 5 tribulation bodiless celestials? What kind of fortuitous encounter did they encounter? Elder Tianji's heart trembled. The fortuitous encounter was beyond his imagination. It was beyond his comprehension. While the oracle man was shocked, Ganru Yin was also shocked by Qinghua's words. Master, is what you're saying true? Their strength is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Of course it's true. Qinghua nodded. He then said with a dignified expression, Do you remember Di Chen? Yes. Ganru Yin nodded. Naturally, she remembered Di Chen. He was a 7-clawed golden dragon. Moreover, he was the only son of the supreme elder of the dragons, Di Huan, and a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even Emperor Qin's aura isn't as good as those threes. Qinghua said. What? Ganru Yin was shocked. Based on what she knew, Di Chen, the 7-clawed golden dragon who was forced to kneel and kowtow to her brother-in-law, Duan Lingtian, was a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Moreover, it was said that he was close to becoming a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, her master was telling her that Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White were stronger than Di Chen. She found this hard to accept. She knew a lot about Little Gold, Little Black, and Little White. Initially, she learned about this from her sister, Kerr. Later on, she learned about this from Han Xuanai, the successor of the 7 Absolutes sect's 7 Absolutes Red Dust progeny. Although the Oracle Man had predicted that Little Gold, Little Black, and Little Black had obtained fortuitous encounters in the Debussyi subterranean and sent them to the lower province, she did not expect the trio's strength to improve so much in such a short time. What fortuitous encounters did they obtain? That fortuitous encounter must have surpassed the level of the mundane realm, right? Ganru Yin was shocked. Naturally, Ganru Yin could not be certain even if she thought so. She was unaware that Little Gold was not the case. She had guessed correctly. Little Gold, Little Black, and Little Black are so powerful? Duan Xiling's face was filled with shock as well. It was hard for her to imagine that the 3 children possessed such powerful strength. In the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone, in the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. It's a celestial sword as well. After many days, Duan Lingtian, Little Black, and Little Black finally passed the 3rd trial and obtained the celestial supreme treasure left behind by Li Bai. It was a sword. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Duan Lingtian held the sword in his hand and infused a little of his energy into it. The sword in his hand shone brightly as a sharp sword ray shot out, emitting a series of rapid sword whistling sounds. The grade of this sword is similar to the celestial sword in my hand. After a while, Duan Lingtian discovered that it was an ordinary celestial supreme treasure. It was on the same grade as the sword in his hand that looked like a pool of spring water. Zhang Yi, since you use a sword as well, you can have this sword. Duan Lingtian casually tossed the celestial sword in his hand to Zhang Yi as though he was throwing trash. This? Chapter 2432. Although Zhang Yi was envious of Duan Lingtian's celestial sword, he still felt that he should not accept it. He did not help much in the first trial of the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. As for the 2nd and 3rd checkpoints, which were even more difficult, he didn't make a move at all. He felt bad for letting Duan Lingtian reap what he had not sown. Take it. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by Zhang Yi's rejection. He smiled faintly before he continued to move forward. From the beginning until the end, he had no intention of taking the celestial sword from Zhang Yi. Lu Xia looked at the celestial sword in Zhang Yi's hand enviously. After all, ever since they entered the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone, she had yet to obtain even a single treasure. Brother Lingtian, wait for me. Han Shu and I followed Duan Lingtian. A hint of gratitude flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes as he looked at Duan Lingtian's back. He did not say anything else and quietly put the celestial sword away. However, in his heart, he felt indebted to Duan Lingtian. Although the difficulty of the next 3 trials increased gradually, it was nothing to Duan Lingtian. With Duan Lingtian in the lead, the 4 of them easily passed the trials. If I'm not mistaken, there's a divine ability after the 6th trial. After Duan Lingtian passed the 6th trial, the scene before his eyes changed again as soon as this thought appeared in his mind. Originally, they were in the middle of a desert. Yet now, the The scene before his eyes changed. The desert had vanished, and it was replaced by a bamboo forest. Moreover, there was a stone tablet standing in the middle of the bamboo forest. The surface of the stone tablet was as smooth as a mirror. It did not seem special at all. However, the stone tablet that did not seem special immediately attracted the attention of Duan Lingtian and the others. This was because the stone tablet was the only thing that seemed special in the bamboo forest. There was nothing special about the rest that attracted their attention. Congratulations on passing the 6th checkpoint. While Duan Lingtian and the others were paying attention to the stone tablet, Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, spoke again. His voice clearly entered Duan Lingtian and the others' ears. The stone tablet in front of you contains a divine ability I left behind. I obtained this divine ability by accident in a Devata realm, so it didn't have a name. After I mastered it, I called it the 13 Green Lotus Swords. The 13 Green Lotus Swords is a sword-type divine ability. It's divided into 13 swords. Moreover, the power of the 13 swords can be stacked together to unleash their full power. As long as you master the 4th sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, its power would be comparable to the top sword divine abilities in the mundane realms. The 5th sword would be comparable to the most ordinary sword divine abilities in the Devata realms. The 6th sword strike, the 7th sword strike, and even the 13th sword strike are even stronger. When Li Bai's words reached the ears of Duan Lingtian and the others, their eyes lit up. The meaning of Li Bai's words was clear. The 13 Green Lotus Swords was clearly not an ordinary divine ability from the Devata realms. Hiss, hiss, hiss. All of a sudden, the 4 people, including Duan Lingtian, couldn't help but take a deep breath. When they looked at the stone tablet again, their eyes lit up. I wonder, if this stone tablet that contains the divine ability 13 Green Lotus Swords can be comprehended by multiple people? Just as Duan Lingtian had this thought in his mind, Li Bai's voice rang out again. This stone tablet that contains the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords, can be comprehended by many people. As long as you place your hand on it, you'll be able to comprehend it. However, after the first person places his hand on it, the stone tablet will disappear after 3 days and 3 nights. I hope that some of you will be able to remember the 13 Green Lotus Swords. I also hope that one day, I'll be able to meet someone who has completely comprehended the 13 Green Lotus Swords. Although we're not master and disciple, we can still drink and chat happily. These words also revealed Li Bai's fondness for wine, however. What caught Duan Lingtian and the others' attention was on Li Bai's words about allowing many people to comprehend it. This meant they could comprehend the 13 Green Lotus Swords at the same time, without having to think about who would be the one to comprehend it. Let's go. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly when he saw Han Xuanai, Zhang Yi, and Lu Xia looking at him expectantly. Then, he took the lead and walked to the stone tablet that contained the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords. Swoosh. Duan Lingtian took the lead and placed his hand on the stone tablet. Swoosh. 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 Han Xuanai and the others placed their hands on the stone tablet as well. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian and the others closed their eyes. This is almost at the same time when Duan Lingtian placed his hand on the stone tablet and closed his eyes, a black figure appeared in his mind. The figure was completely black, but based on the figure's body, it seemed to be a man. Could it be Li Bai? Duan Lingtian thought to himself. However, his thoughts were soon dispelled. This was because the black figure had moved. Swoosh. As soon as a sword appeared in the black figure's hand, he made his move at lightning speed. In just a blink of an eye, he left several afterimages in his wake. Following that, the sword tore through the air and shot forward. The tip of the sword seemed to be able to pierce through everything. The first Green Lotus Sword. At the same time, this thought appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind without warning. He knew the black figure's sword was the first sword of the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords. Swoosh. Whoosh. Just as Duan Lingtian was immersed in the first sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, he realized something. Above the black silhouette that attacked, another solid silhouette appeared. Furthermore, without affecting the posture of the first sword, it attacked again. Green Lotus Second Sword. In Duan Lingtian's mind, Another thought appeared without warning. It also made him realize the second sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords summoning had also appeared. Green Lotus Third Sword, Green Lotus Fourth Sword, Green Lotus Fifth Sword, 12th Green Lotus Sword, 13th Green Lotus Sword. In just a blink of an eye, before Duan Lingtian could react, the black figure had already performed the complete 13 Green Lotus Swords. From the moment that figure displayed the first sword to the complete set of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, only a blink of an eye had passed. Duan Lingtian's reaction was barely able to keep up with the first 3 strikes. However, when the fourth sword began, even Duan Lingtian could not keep up with the speed of the fourth sword. Fast. It's too fast. The speed of the swords is heaven-defying. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel shocked as these thoughts appeared in his mind. He did not expect this. Even he who had comprehended the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, would not be able to keep up with the speed of the fourth sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords. However, the power of the 13 swords overlapped in the end. If this isn't a demonstration, the power must be terrifying. After all, according to Li Bai, the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, as long as one comprehends the fifth sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, the power of the 13 Green Lotus Swords would be comparable to ordinary divine abilities in the Devata realms. If one were to comprehend the 13 Green Lotus Swords and cast it, the power of the 13 Green Lotus Swords would be comparable to many high-grade divine abilities in the Devata realms. Duan Lingtian could not help but think to himself when he recalled Li Bai's message. It was also because of this that his eyes flickered with an even brighter light. It was as though he had just seen a peerless treasure. In fact, in Duan Lingtian's opinion, the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords, was no different from a peerless treasure. Even if I've only mastered the fifth sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, my strength will increase by a level. If I master the remaining 8 swords, my strength will increase by a few levels. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as his heart skipped a beat. Naturally, he knew it would be difficult to master even the first 5 swords of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, let alone the remaining 8 swords, which were even more difficult. However, the most important thing now is to comprehend the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords. Only then can I be considered to have mastered it. However, if I want to master it, I'll have to memorize every single sword in the 13 Green Lotus Swords. If he could not even memorize the trajectories of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, how could he possibly comprehend and master this divine ability? I've comprehended the Sovereign Heart Sword, a Sword Tao mental cultivation method. However, when I first studied the 13 Green Lotus Swords, I only managed to see the trajectories of the first 3 swords. If it were Han Xuan'ai and the other 2, I'm afraid they wouldn't even be able to see the first sword clearly. Duan Lingtian thought to himself when he saw the black figure who had demonstrated the 13 Green Lotus Swords in his mind earlier was preparing to perform the 13 Green Lotus Swords again. In fact, he was right. Whether it was Han Xuan'ai, Zhang Yi, or Lu Xia, when the black figure demonstrated the 13 Green Lotus Swords for the first time, they could not even catch the trajectory of the first sword. Before they could even react to the first sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, all 13 swords of the 13 Green Lotus Swords had already been demonstrated. Although the process of comprehending the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords, was said to take 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 24:33. When the black figure demonstrated the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords, for the 31st time, Zhang Yi finally captured the trajectory of the first sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords. I can finally see it clearly. Zhang Yi could not help but feel excited when he saw the trajectory of the first sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords. After all, he was on the brink of despair earlier. However, now that he had captured the trajectory of the first sword of the 13 Green Lotus Swords, his heart that had almost sunk to the bottom of the abyss was suddenly reinvigorated. It was as though he had been reborn. However, he knew the divine ability of the 13 Green Lotus Swords. In order to completely memorize the divine ability, the 13 Green Lotus Swords, he had to clearly see the trajectory of each sword. Otherwise, he would only be able to see the sword and remember the process. I have 3 days and 3 nights. I don't expect to memorize the 13 swords of the 13 green lotus swords. I only hope to memorize the first 6 or 7 swords. Zhang Yi was not very ambitious. He only hoped to memorize the 6th or 7th sword of the 13 green lotus swords. Even if he could only memorize the 6th sword, he would be satisfied. After all, mastering the 5th sword of the 13 green lotus swords was comparable to a divine ability in the Devata realms. If he could memorize the 6th or 7th sword, the power he would be able to display would be even greater. Although it had only been 15 minutes, he had already memorized the first sword of the 13 green lotus swords. However, he knew very well that the first sword of the 13 green lotus swords was faster than the second sword. Of the 13 swords of green lotus, each sword was faster than the previous one. The time it took for him to see the second sword would definitely be much longer than the time it took for him to see the first sword. As it turned out, Zhang Yi had memorized the second sword of the 13 green lotus swords. After 2 hours, he finally memorized the second sword of the 13 green lotus swords. At this time, Han Shuanai had also memorized the first sword of the 13 green lotus swords. As for Lu Xia, it took her another half an hour to memorize the first sword of the 13 green lotus swords. I can finally memorize the 10th sword. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally memorized the 10th sword of the 13 green lotus swords. There were only 3 swords left that he could not memorize. Fortunately, Zhang Yi and the other 2 were unaware of Duan Lingtian's current progress. Otherwise, they would have been angered to the point of vomiting blood. The 3 of them had fought with all their might, but they were only able to see the first and second sword of the 13 green lotus swords. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, had clearly seen the 10th sword of the 13 green lotus swords. This also meant that, as long as Duan Lingtian could see the last 3 swords of the 13 green lotus swords, he would have completely memorized the divine ability. At that time, his hand would be able to leave the stone tablet, and he would be able to comprehend and master this divine ability on his own. Of course, all of this would need to be completed within 3 days and 3 nights. However, judging from Duan Lingtian's current progress, it was almost certain that he would be able to memorize all 13 swords of the 13 green lotus within 3 days and 3 nights. It's also because I've comprehended the sovereign heart sword that Senior Feng Qingyang left behind. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to see the trajectories of the first 10 moves of the 13 green lotus swords so quickly. Duan Lingtian was very clear about this. The reason he could see the trajectories of the first 10 moves of the 13 green lotus swords so quickly was due to the sovereign heart sword. At this rate, I should only need half a day to see all the trajectories of the 13 green lotus swords. Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence when he thought of this. However, imagination was beautiful, but reality was cruel. After half a day, Duan Lingtian could only see the trajectories of the 12th sword of the 13 green lotus swords. The speed of the 13 green lotus swords becomes more and more exaggerated as it progresses toward the end. I've underestimated it. After realizing this, Duan Lingtian no longer dared to be complacent. He earnestly grasped the trajectories of the 13th sword of the 13 green lotus swords, which was also the last sword of the 13 green lotus swords. Another half a day went by. I'm still lacking a little. After a while, I should be able to see all 13 swords clearly. In the end, Duan Lingtian spent another half a day before he could see all the trajectories of the 13th sword of the 13 green lotus swords clearly. At this point, he could finally see all the trajectories of the 13 green lotus swords clearly. This meant that, now, even if the stone tablet disappeared, he could still comprehend and master the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, on his own. Finally, Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief before he opened his eyes and removed his hand from the stone tablet. Instantly, the black figure that was still demonstrating the 13 green lotus swords in his mind vanished into thin air. It was as though it had never been there before. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could see that, whether it was Han Shuanai, Zhang Yi, or Lu Xia, all of them were frowning as they placed their hands on the stone tablet. Their eyes were tightly shut. It was obvious they were trying their best to see the trajectories of the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords. There's still a day and a half left. I hope they can see as many swords as possible. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Since he had experienced it before, he knew how difficult it was to see all the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, clearly. It was not that he looked down on Han Shuanai and the other two. It was just that he did not think Han Shuanai and the other two would be able to see all the 13 green lotus swords. They might not even be able to see the first 10 swords. After all, the 13 green lotus swords were faster than the previous one. I can't help them. I can only rely on them. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he stood at the side and began to comprehend the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, that he had memorized. Earlier, he had only memorized the 13 green lotus swords and had not begun to comprehend it. Now, he had begun to comprehend it. A day and a half passed in just a blink of an eye. Whoosh! With a soft sound, not only did the stone tablet that Han Shuanai and the other two had placed their hands on disappear, but their surroundings changed as well. This time, they appeared in a dazzling hall. It was none other than the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. At this moment, Duan Lingtian, who was comprehending the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, finally regained his senses. A day and a half has passed. Duan Lingtian finally realized he had been comprehending the 13 green lotus swords for a day and a half. Although it's only been a day and a half, I've already mastered the first sword of the 13 green lotus swords. Moreover, I've already comprehended half of the second sword of the 13 green lotus swords. I'm sure I'll be able to master it in 2 more days. Duan Lingtian was in a good mood when he thought about this. At the same time, he looked at Han Shuanai and the other two who had just regained their senses. What's the situation with all of you? How many swords of the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, have you memorized? Brother Lingtian, I've only memorized 4 swords. Han Shuanai had just regained her senses when she heard Duan Lingtian's question. She could not help but smile wryly as she said, "It seems like I'm really not suited to use swords. I'm not fated with the 13 green lotus swords either." Although the first 4 swords of the 13 green lotus swords were powerful, it was only comparable to a peak divine ability in the mundane realm. For this reason, even if Han Shuanai comprehended the 13 green lotus swords in the future, she would only be able to master the 4th sword at most. After all, that was all she could remember. Although Duan Lingtian had memorized a lot, before he completely mastered the 13 green lotus swords, he would not be able to share this divine ability with others. This was similar to the divine abilities in the mundane realm. What about the 2 of you? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Zhang Yi and Lu Xia. I've only memorized 3 swords. Lu Xia smiled wryly and helplessly. Even if she successfully comprehended and mastered the first 3 swords of the 13 green lotus swords, in terms of strength, it was not as powerful as the offensive divine ability from the mundane realm that she had mastered. For this reason, she had no intention of comprehending the 13 green lotus swords. I've memorized 6 swords. If I had 2 more hours, I'm confident I'd be able to memorize the 7th sword. What a pity. Zhang Yi sighed. However, he was already satisfied with this result. After all, even if he had only memorized the first 6 swords of the 13 green lotus swords, once he comprehended and mastered them in the future, the power of the 13 green lotus swords would surpass the most ordinary divine abilities in the Devata realms. It's good that you managed to memorize 6 swords. Duan Lingtian no longer harbored any hope for Zhang Yi when he heard about Han Shuanai and Lu Xia's results. He did not expect Zhang Yi would give him such a pleasant surprise. Based on this, it was clear that Zhang Yi was talented. Zhang Yi's talent in the sword Dao was extraordinary. 6 swords? Han Shuanai and Lu Xia were shocked when they heard Zhang Yi's words. They did not expect the gap between them and Zhang Yi would be so wide. Zhang Yi, congratulations. If you're able to comprehend and master the first 5 swords of the 13 green lotus swords when you become an eminent celestial, coupled with the celestial sword you obtained, your strength will be comparable to a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. Lu Xia congratulated Zhang Yi. Coupled with the other techniques from the Celestial Masters sect, your strength will be comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial at that time. A hint of envy could be seen in Lu Xia's eyes when she finished speaking. I was just lucky. Zhang Yi replied humbly. I was just lucky, Zhang Yi replied humbly. Brother Ling Tian, how many swords of the 13 green lotus swords did you manage to memorize? Han Xuanai asked as she looked at Duan Ling Tian. She seemed to have recalled something when Zhang Yi was acting humble in front of Lu Xia. When Zhang Yi and Lu Xia heard Han Xuanai's words, they immediately turned to look at Duan Ling Tian. A hint of curiosity and anticipation could be seen in their eyes. They wanted to know as well. Chapter 24-34. 13 Swords. Faced with Han Xuanai and the other two's burning gazes, Duan Ling Tian smiled faintly and spat out 3 words in a neither fast nor slow manner. 13 swords. Han Xuanai and the others were stunned when they heard Duan Ling Tian's words. Although they knew Duan Ling Tian must have seen and memorized most of the swords in the 13 green lotus swords, they were still shocked. They did not expect Duan Ling Tian would say he had seen and memorized the 13 swords. After all, the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, only had a total of 13 swords. Now that Duan Ling Tian said he had seen and memorized the 13 green lotus swords, it meant he had completely memorized the 13 green lotus swords. It was only a matter of time before he comprehended and mastered the 13 green lotus swords. Duan Ling Tian, did you really see and memorize the 13 green lotus swords? A hint of suspicion could be seen in her eyes when she looked at Duan Ling Tian. She did not believe Duan Ling Tian's words. After all, the 13 green lotus swords was considered a remarkable divine ability even in the Devata realms. Moreover, she had personally experienced the difficulty of comprehending the 13 green lotus swords. For this reason, she did not think Duan Ling Tian was capable of seeing and memorizing the 13 green lotus swords. Oomph! Duan Ling Tian snorted indifferently when he saw Lu Xia's skeptical gaze. I won't bother to explain this matter. It's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. When Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, there was no emotion in his tone. It was neither happy nor sad. Initially, Duan Ling Tian had a good impression of Lu Xia. Even after that, under Rongbo's threat, Lu Xia hesitated and even revealed that she wanted to expel him from the small group. Therefore, he did not hold it against her. He could understand her. Of course, although he could understand Lu Xia, it was impossible for him to treat Lu Xia the way he did in the beginning. Now that Lu Xia had doubted him, he was extremely displeased. Was there a need for him, Duan Ling Tian, to lie? He, Duan Ling Tian, really disdained to say such a lie. Lu Xia felt slightly embarrassed when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. She regretted her words earlier. If she had a chance to do it all over again, she would not have said it even if she still doubted Duan Ling Tian. I'm doomed. Lu Xia felt bitter. Now, I've offended him again. Even if I continue to follow him, I'm afraid I won't be able to gain anything. When Lu Xia thought of this, she looked at Duan Ling Tian with a puzzled expression. Brother Ling Tian, I believe in you. Han Xuanai was already displeased when Lu Xia doubted her brother Ling Tian. Now that she heard her brother Ling Tian's emotionless words, she looked at Lu Xia coldly with a hint of displeasure in her eyes. Duan Ling Tian has no need to lie. Zhang Yi spoke up at this moment. His thoughts were the same as his words. He did not think Duan Ling Tian was lying. Putting aside the fact that he had learned a lot about Duan Ling Tian throughout their journey, he knew Duan Ling Tian was a person who disdained to lie. Even if he did not know Duan Ling Tian well, he did not think Duan Ling Tian would lie because there was no need for him to do so. When Han Xuanai and Zhang Yi's words entered Lu Xia's ears, she felt as though she was being pricked by needles. Her face turned green and pale. Duan Ling Tian. Lu Xia looked at Duan Ling Tian and said in a deep voice, I don't think it's necessary for me to continue following all of you. Let's part ways here. After she finished speaking, she prepared to leave the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, on her own. Wait. However, Duan Ling Tian called out when Lu Xia was about to leave. I know what you're thinking. Don't worry. If we find another celestial supreme treasure later on, no matter what kind of celestial supreme treasure it is, it'll belong to you. I, Duan Ling Tian, won't do anything unfair just because of what you said. Duan Ling Tian said bluntly. Is that so? Lucia did not look happy when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. Instead, she sneered. Duan Lingtian, I think you want me to continue following all of you, so that you can let me die in the treasure vault, right? What do you mean? No matter how good-tempered Duan Lingtian was, he could not help but feel enraged. If he wanted Lucia to die, would she still be alive now? Lucia, what did you say? Han Shu and I was furious. Lucia dared to question her brother Ling Tian's character? Lucia, what nonsense are you talking about? Zhang Yi's expression changed. He never thought that Lucia would suddenly say such a thing, directly questioning Ling Tian's character. Am I wrong? Lucia sneered. Duan Ling Tian, it's not hard to tell from the strength you've displayed. If you didn't deliberately conceal your strength, how could Wang Shi have died? You suspect I deliberately caused Wang Shi's death? Duan Lingtian's expression darkened immediately. Previously, Wang Shi had died in the human rank treasure vault because he did not expect the difficulty to increase by a few times. Due to this reason, he did not even have the time to cast the divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. Due to this reason, Wang Shi had died in there. However, it was not that he deliberately concealed his strength and caused Wang Shi's death. It was just that he did not have time to unleash his full strength at that time. However, Lu Xia was accusing him of deliberately concealing his strength and causing Wang Shi's death? Am I wrong? The sneer on Lu Xia's face grew wider after she had shed all pretense of cordiality with Duan Ling Tian. With the strength you displayed, it's easy for you to pass the trial. If you didn't hold back, Wang Shi wouldn't have died. Based on what you're saying, I deliberately caused his death. Duan Ling Tian was so angry that he laughed. Why would I want to cause his death? Isn't it because he hesitated when Rong Bo asked us to expel you from the group? It's not surprising that you killed him because of your resentment. Lu Xia sneered. Based on what you're saying, I should hold a grudge against you as well. If that's the case, why did I let you live until now? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes. Who knows? Perhaps you just want to pretend to be a good person in front of Zhang Yi. Right now, Lu Xia had completely given up. She had completely revealed the ruthless side that she had been hiding in the depths of her heart. Lu Xia, Duan Lingtian isn't that kind of person. Zhang Yi, who had remained silent all this while, could not help but frown. Zhang Yi, you may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. I advise you to be careful. After Lu Xia said this to Zhang Yi, she turned around and left. The heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, was located in the underground palace. If one continued to advance, one would encounter obstacles at the back. However, if one retreated, one would not encounter any obstacles and could smoothly leave the underground palace. Zhang Yi, do you also think I intentionally caused Wang Shi's death? After Lu Xia left, Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Yi and asked with a self-deprecating smile. Of course not, Zhang Yi said with a serious expression on his face. Although I've thought about that after witnessing your true strength. I believe that Wang Shi died because you didn't have time to unleash your full strength. It's impossible for you to intentionally cause Wang Shi's death. If you really wanted to kill Wang Shi and Lu Xia, you could have just killed them. Even if you didn't kill them, there's no need for you to bring them along with you. Zhang Yi spoke from the bottom of his heart. Duan Lingtian smiled when he heard Zhang Yi's words. The gloominess he felt when he was forced to stay behind disappeared in just a blink of an eye. It was enough for him to have Zhang Yi's trust. Let's go. Let's go check out the 7th test. After Duan Lingtian called out to Han Shuanai and Zhang Yi, they continued to make their way to the 7th test. After the 9th test, Duan Lingtian discovered the sword Dao left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. However, since Duan Lingtian had learned from Zhang Yi that it was only an incomplete legacy left behind by Li Bai, he did not have high hopes for it. However, since he was already here, Duan Lingtian decided to complete the last 3 tests in the heaven-ranked treasure vault. While Duan Lingtian was leading Han Shuanai and Zhang Yi to the next test, Lu Xia left. The more she thought about the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, she felt even more indignant. If it weren't for Wang Shi and I, they wouldn't have been able to find this place. In the end, She continued to spread the news about the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. It did not take long before a large group of people learned about the heaven-rank treasure vault. The heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial? Li Bai is a legend in Yin Huang realm. I didn't expect him to become a great overarching golden celestial in less than 1,000 years after he ascended to the Devata realm. There's a celestial sword in the heaven-rank treasure vault? Moreover, there's a divine ability from the Devata realm? Let's go. Let's go and have a look. What's the rush? We're all bodiless celestials. There's no way we can enter the treasure vault. We only have a chance to obtain the celestial sword. As for the divine abilities and sword Tao, we can't snatch them away. More and more people appeared outside the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. Most of these people were bodiless celestials. Because they were loose immortals, they could only look at the heaven-rank treasure vault in front of them enviously because they were restricted from entering. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 24:35. Duan Lingtian, Han Xuanai, and Zhang Yi had successfully passed through the seventh obstacle in the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial, and returned to the Grand Hall. At this moment, they heard the sound of wind whistling in the air. By the time they regained their senses, they had already discovered that there were over a dozen figures around them. Zhang Yi. One of the figures recognized Zhang Yi and said, "I didn't expect you to be so lucky. You actually found the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial." The person who recognized Zhang Yi was a young man dressed in a white robe with silver trimmings. When he looked at Zhang Yi and spoke to him, it was as though he was looking down on Zhang Yi. It was as though he was an emperor looking down on his subjects. Zhang Yunfei. Zhang Yi did not expect to meet the white-clad young man here. His expression changed immediately. "You. Why are you here? Why can't I be here?" The white-robed young man whom Zhang Yi addressed as Zhang Yunfei could not help but laugh when he heard Zhang Yi's words. "What? Are you unhappy to see me? I heard that the celestial sword in the heaven-rank treasure vault was obtained by someone called Zhang Yi. I thought it was someone with the same name as you. After all, it's impossible for trash like you to obtain a celestial supreme treasure. I didn't expect it to be you." Zhang Yunfei narrowed his eyes as a cold light flashed in them. "Zhang Yi, hand over the celestial sword." Humph. As soon as Zhang Yunfei finished speaking, Zhang Yi's expression darkened. A few of the hot-tempered ones among the dozen, or so people couldn't help but snort coldly. "Zhang Yunfei, is it? You can't have the celestial sword just because you want it. Those who saw it have a share. If you want the celestial sword, you'll have to go through me first. If you want the celestial sword in his hand, you'll have to go through me first." When the hot-tempered people took the lead, the rest of the people began to speak as well. Their gazes turned even colder as they looked at Zhang Yunfei. "With just you guys?" Zhang Yunfei could not help but sneer when he heard the words of these people. His tone turned even colder as he said in a deep voice, "Since all of you are in a hurry to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Almost as soon as Zhang Yunfei finished speaking, boom! Boundless Saint Qi burst out of his body in the blink of an eye, and this Saint Qi was filled with an aura that was even more powerful than Saint Qi. Celestial origin energy? An eminent celestial. He's an eminent celestial. When they sensed Zhang Yunfei's aura, most of the people's expressions changed. Half-step celestial? Do you think? You're the only half-step immortal? There were also two people who remained calm. Celestial origin energy mixed with saint origin energy surged out of their bodies, revealing they were eminent celestials. Two half-step immortals? Zhang Yunfei did not expect there to be two eminent celestials among the dozen or so people who came with him. He was slightly taken aback. "What? Are you afraid?" The two half-step immortals sneered. "Afraid?" Zhang Yunfei smiled brightly. "You better pray that you're not ordinary eminent celestials. Otherwise, you'll definitely die within 2 breaths." Not only was Zhang Yunfei not afraid of facing two eminent celestials, but he even smiled confidently as he said, that's right. Could it be? Upon hearing Zhang Yunfei's confident words, the two eminent celestials looked at each other and saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. They thought of one possibility. Zhang Yunfei might be an eminent celestial whose strength was comparable to a three-tribulation bodiless celestial. Otherwise, how would he dare to make such a bold claim? While the two eminent celestials were looking at each other and trying to figure out what was going on, the span of a breath had already passed. Boom, 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 boom. An earth-shattering sound of thunder reverberated in the air. A thunder sword that was completely condensed from celestial origin energy and saint origin had appeared in Zhang Yunfei's hand. When he swung the thunder sword, a sea of clouds appeared in the sky above the magnificent hall. The sea of clouds was purple and white, illuminating the surroundings with a white light. Purple lightning flashed in and out of the sea of clouds as it merged with the white light. At this moment, it seemed as though Zhang Yunfei had brought a thundercloud into the underground palace. Destructive celestial thunder. Zhang Yi's expression changed drastically when he saw this. He exclaimed in shock. He has mastered this celestial method as well. Celestial method? Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow when he heard Zhang Yi's exclamation. He had heard about celestial methods from Hualao. He knew it was a celestial method from the Devata realms. It was similar to martial techniques in the Devata realms that could be used together with divine abilities. However, the celestial technique required celestial origin energy to be activated. For this reason, Hualao did not have the time to teach Zhang Yi the celestial method even though he knew about it. After all, when Hualao left him, he was still far from becoming an eminent celestial. Eminent celestials were able to cultivate celestial methods since their saint origin was mixed with celestial origin energy. This is a celestial method? When Zhang Yi's expression changed drastically, the two eminent celestials realized that Zhang Yunfei was using a celestial technique. Their expressions changed drastically as well. After all, celestial methods were techniques from the Devata realms. Once an eminent celestial cultivated a celestial method to a certain level, their strength would be comparable to a three-tribulation bodiless celestial. At this moment, Zhang Yunfei's celestial technique made them feel a strong sense of danger. It made them realize that Zhang Yunfei was not weak at all. Perhaps, Zhang Yunfei's strength was comparable to a three-tribulation bodiless celestial after he cast his celestial method. Brother, I don't want his celestial sword anymore. I'll give it to you. That's right, brother. I don't want his celestial sword anymore. I'll leave now. The two eminent celestials hastily expressed their intentions to Zhang Yunfei as soon as they sensed the crisis. Then, they began to retreat, intending to leave this dangerous place. It's too late. However, just as they were about to leave, Zhang Yunfei's celestial origin energy, which was mixed with saint origin energy, surged again. It was as though a pool of calm water had suddenly boiled. Assist-type divine ability? At this moment, Duan Lingtian, who was standing at the side, narrowed his eyes. At this moment, he could clearly sense the divine ability. In just a blink of an eye, the rich heaven and earth spirit energy in the underground palace was being absorbed by Zhang Yunfei's saint origin. Although this assist-type divine ability was not as powerful as the elementary devouring tactic, it was still very powerful. It was much more powerful than the assist-type divine abilities in the mundane realms. Zhang Yunfei's strength is not any weaker than a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Just as this thought appeared in Duan Ling Tian's mind. Boom, boom, boom. A purple and white light descended from the sky. The two eminent celestials who were trying to flee did not even have time to react before they were enveloped by the lightning. After the lightning disappeared, the two eminent celestials were nowhere to be seen. They were dead. Spare us, my lord. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please spare us, my lord. The remaining people were horrified when they saw the two eminent celestials who were stronger than them had been killed by Zhang Yunfei in just a blink of an eye. Some of them even knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Humph! However, Zhang Yunfei turned a blind eye to the begging of the group of people and pressed down with his hand. In just a blink of an eye, another bolt of lightning shot out from the thunderclouds in the sky. It seemed as though it was capable of destroying heaven and earth. In just a blink of an eye, the remaining people were killed by Zhang Yunfei. Is he the eminent celestial whose strength is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial in the Celestial Master sect? Duan Lingtian asked Zhang Yi. It's not him. Zhang Yi shook his head. The person I mentioned is his brother, Zhang Yuntung. Before entering the Beyond Heaven secret zone, Zhang Yunfei's strength was only comparable to a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. At the very least, I didn't know he had cultivated the Celestial Master sect's celestial method, the destructive celestial thunder. His brother, Zhang Yunting, is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial because he has mastered the divine ability from the Devata realm, the destructive celestial thunder, and a celestial supreme treasure, Zhang Yi said. Duan Lingtian nodded. Zhang Yunting? Duan Lingtian nodded. Remembering this person, does this mean his strength is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial if he obtains your celestial sword? Duan Lingtian asked. Yes. Zhang Yi smiled wryly. However, the celestial supreme treasure in his brother's possession was given to his brother by the Celestial Master sect, right? Now that Zhang Yunfei has cultivated the destructive celestial thunder, the Celestial Master sect will give him a celestial supreme treasure, right? Duan Lingtian asked again. No. Zhang Yi shook his head. The Celestial Masters sect only has 2 celestial supreme treasures. One of them is usually given to the most outstanding disciple in the sect. The other one is in the hands of the sect leader of the Celestial Masters sect. Unless something happened to his brother, it's impossible for him to obtain the celestial supreme treasure that has been passed down for generations. Zhang Yi added. I see. Duan Lingtian nodded. If this was the case, Duan Lingtian could understand. Chapter 2436. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, Duan Lingtian learned that Zhang Yi's strength had reached a certain level. Even if Zhang Yunfei had mastered the destructive celestial thunder and his strength was comparable to a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, it was impossible for him to obtain a celestial supreme treasure from the Celestial Master sect since his brother, Zhu Yu, had done it. For this reason, he could only rely on himself to obtain a celestial supreme treasure. Now that he knew Zhang Yi had a celestial sword, there was no way he would miss this opportunity. Zhang Yi, hand over the celestial sword and kowtow to me 3 times. If you do that, I'll consider sparing your life. Otherwise, today will be the day you die. Zhang Yunfei said in a condescending tone as he looked at Zhang Yi coldly. He was like the Grim Reaper who could kill Zhang Yi at any time. Zhang Yi's expression darkened as he clenched his fists. His body trembled violently from anger. Although he was angry, he knew he was no match for Zhang Yunfei at this moment. Smack! A soft sound rang in the air. Zhang Yi was stunned when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Immediately after, a figure beside him stepped forward and stood in front of him to protect him. Is that so? The person who stepped forward was none other than Duan Lingtian. Why do I feel like today is the day you die, Zhang Yunfei? Duan Lingtian said indifferently as he stood in front of Zhang Yi and looked at Zhang Yunfei calmly. Although Duan Lingtian's expression was calm, a hint of killing intent could be seen in the depths of his eyes. Zhang Yi was a friend he had acknowledged from the bottom of his heart. However, someone dared to threaten to kill his friend in front of him. How could he, Duan Lingtian's friend, be killed so easily? Whoosh! When Duan Lingtian stepped forward and spoke, Zhang Yunfei finally shifted his gaze from Zhang Yi to Duan Lingtian. Brat, you're seeking death. The moment he looked at Duan Lingtian, Zhang Yunfei's eyes turned cold, and his body emitted a monstrous killing intent. At the same time, his celestial origin energy and saint origin energy surged out and enveloped Zhang Yunfei like a ball of fire. Die! Zhang Yunfei didn't want to waste time talking nonsense with Duan Lingtian. He suddenly raised his hand and pressed it towards Duan Lingtian. Almost at the same time Zhang Yunfei attacked. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, The thunderclouds in the sky that were originally showing signs of dispersing gathered together once again, erupting with a dazzling purple and white light that enveloped Duan Lingtian. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was so fast that Han Shuanai and Zhang Yi had no time to react. Humph! Duan Lingtian scoffed indifferently in the face of Zhang Yunfei's destructive celestial thunder. Then, he raised his hand and a sword appeared in his hand. It was none other than the celestial sword in his hand. At the same time, the energy in his body flowed through his 99 saint veins into the celestial sword. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The celestial sword that had been infused with Duan Lingtian's energy began to shine brightly. Streaks of sword radiance shot out from the immortal sword. Sword-wielding art. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian's celestial sword flew out of his hand to meet the destructive celestial thunder. As a celestial technique, the destructive celestial thunder's power was, naturally, extraordinary. Boom, 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 boom. Deafening explosions rang in the air as the destructive celestial thunder swept past. It was so powerful that it seemed capable of suppressing everything. Swoosh. However, the destructive celestial thunder that seemed capable of suppressing everything was blocked by Duan Lingtian's celestial sword. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. The destructive celestial thunder hovered in the air as though it had come to a standstill. A powerful energy surged out of the void where Duan Lingtian's celestial sword was about to pierce the destructive celestial thunder. Both parties were evenly matched for a brief moment. Naturally, the standstill did not last long. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion reverberated in the air, followed by billowing airwaves. Even Han Shuanai and Zhang Yi were blasted away, causing them to suffer some injuries from the aftershock of the energy. Boom! 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 Explosions rang in the air as the air in the air seemed to have been sucked dry. This was because they were not in the mundane realm. Otherwise, the collision of the two forces just now would have been enough to leave countless cracks in the void. This was because the collision of the two energies was comparable to a full-powered battle between two four-tribulation bodiless celestials. After a long while, the scene finally calmed down. At this moment, the result of the battle between Duan Lingtian and Zhang Yunfei finally came to an end. They were evenly matched and neither had the upper hand. This was because Duan Lingtian did not have the time to cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and he did not cast the fourth stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the body and sword fusion. Otherwise, how could a mere Zhang Yunfei possibly be able to fight him to a draw? It seems like you're Duan Lingtian from the Saint Province realm. You're quite strong. With just the celestial sword and celestial method, you're comparable to a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Zhang Yunfei said in a deep voice as he looked at Duan Lingtian. You know me? Duan Lingtian raised an eyebrow when he heard Zhang Yunfei's words. However, Zhang Yunfei ignored Duan Lingtian. Instead, he looked at Zhang Yi and said through voice transmission, Zhang Yi, if you give me the celestial sword and let me kill this man, I'll give you the celestial sword. Apart from that, I won't compete with you for the incomplete legacy left behind by the Green Lotus Sword Celestial, Li Bai. Not only that, I can even help you pass through the later stages so you can obtain the incomplete legacy. When Zhang Yunfei communicated with Zhang Yi through voice transmission, he no longer had the condescending tone he used when talking to Zhang Yi. Instead, he sounded very polite. Zhang Yunfei's change in attitude was due to the fact that he was in a passive position. He did not expect Duan Lingtian to be so strong. He did not expect Zhang Yi to have someone who was as strong as him. After witnessing Duan Lingtian's strength, he was confident he would be able to kill Duan Lingtian after obtaining the celestial sword. In other words, the key to killing Duan Lingtian lay in Zhang Yi. As for the promise he made to Zhang Yi through voice transmission, it was just a casual remark. Once he obtained the celestial sword and killed this young man from the Saint Province realm, he would kill Zhang Yi as well. At that time, apart from obtaining the two celestial swords, he would also be able to obtain Li Bai's legacy. One could say that Zhang Yi's wishful thinking was well thought out. Now that everything was ready, all he needed was one final push. Zhang Yi was the key to this push. It all depended on whether Zhang Yi would give him the celestial sword. Zhang Yunfei. Zhang Yi naturally knew what Zhang Yunfei was thinking. He shook his head and said, "Even if I give you the celestial sword, you're still no match for Duan Ling Tian." Zhang Yunfei did not expect Zhang Yi to repeat his words. His expression changed drastically as he said, "Zhang Yi, you're seeking death." Naturally, he did not believe Zhang Yi's words. He thought Zhang Yi was trying to boost Duan Lingtian's morale. Zhang Yi. At this moment, Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Yi and said indifferently, "Since he thinks he can defeat me with the celestial sword, there's no harm in you giving him the celestial sword. Just as well, I want to see how strong he'll become with the celestial sword." Duan Lingtian had an indifferent expression on his face when he finished speaking. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Zhang Yi raised his hand and took out the celestial sword and threw it to Zhang Yunfei. "Zhang Yunfei, you'll know I'm not lying to you." Smack! When Zhang Yunfei caught the celestial sword from Zhang Yi, he could not help but feel a little shaken, especially after confirming that the sword in his hand was indeed a celestial supreme treasure. An ominous premonition faintly rose in his heart. However, even though he had an ominous premonition, he knew that there was no turning back. He had no other choice at this moment. They're just bluffing. They must be deliberately mystifying things. Zhang Yunfei comforted himself as he attacked again with the celestial sword in his hand. Not only did he cast the assist-type divine ability from the Devata realm, but he also cast the destructive celestial thunder. Elementary devouring tactic. As soon as Zhang Yunfei braced himself to attack Duan Ling Tian, a whirlpool appeared and merged with Duan Ling Tian. The whirlpool only appeared for a moment before it disappeared again. Regardless of whether it was Han Xuan'ai or Zhang Yi, they did not have the time to see the vortex clearly. However, that did not mean Zhang Yunfei did not see it. That's an assist-type divine ability? As someone who had mastered assist-type divine abilities from the Devata realm, Zhang Yunfei could vaguely tell Duan Lingtian had cast an assist-type divine ability. Moreover, the assist-type divine ability seemed to be on par with the assist-type divine ability he had cast. This was because his assist-type divine ability had lost to Duan Lingtian's assist-type divine ability during the fight for the heaven and earth spirit energy. Even so, he still managed to obtain enough heaven and earth spirit energy. With this celestial supreme treasure, my current strength is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even if he cast an assist-type divine ability from the Devata realm, he'll only be able to tie with me at most. Chapter 24:37. As the saying went, imagination is beautiful, but reality is cruel. After a few moments, Zhang Yunfei finally understood the meaning of this saying. Destructive celestial thunder. The immortal technique, the destructive immortal thunder, that Zhang Yunfei cast with his immortal sword was naturally incomparable to the one he cast earlier. It was comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial's attack. It was much more powerful compared to when he did not have the celestial sword. Sword-wielding art. In the face of Zhang Yunfei's celestial technique, the destructive celestial thunder, Duan Lingtian tossed the celestial sword in his hand away. In the eyes of the onlookers, it looked like a casual toss of the celestial sword. Similar to Zhang Yunfei, Duan Lingtian was also using the same technique. However, before he tossed the celestial sword away, he had infused his energy into the celestial sword through the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. For this reason, the sword-wielding art he cast this time was much more powerful than the sword-wielding art he had cast before. In fact, it was much more powerful than the sword-wielding art. Boom! The destructive celestial thunder struck with a thunderous force as though it could annihilate everything. Swoosh! The immortal sword tore through the sky like a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of a tiger, and it moved to greet the immortal lightning of destruction that approached menacingly and with a vast impetus. After a few moments, the celestial sword and the destructive celestial thunder collided again. However, this time, there was no brief pause. The previous pause was due to the strength of the celestial sword and the destructive celestial thunder. For this reason, the two of them were in a stalemate for a brief moment before they canceled each other out. This time, When the celestial sword rose into the air, it exuded a force that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth. It was even more powerful than the destructive celestial thunder. Boom, 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 boom. Waves of earth-shattering noises spread out, and terrifying waves of air were compressed into waves of shock waves that swept out in all directions, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Even the destructive celestial thunder could not withstand a single blow from this force. It was instantly suppressed and annihilated. Wow! Zhang Yunfei's body shook when his celestial technique was broken. His face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper, and then he couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood. Blood stained the ground, dazzling and eye-catching. How is this possible? The destructive immortal thunder that I just used is comparable to the attack of a 5th tribulation bodiless celestial. When Zhang Yunfei looked at Duan Lingtian again, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He could not accept this fact. Humph! Zhang Yi scoffed when he heard Zhang Yunfei's words. He said indifferently, Duan Lingtian can even kill a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. You're just an eminent celestial with strength comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. The scene of Duan Lingtian killing Pei Kuan Shan, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, was still vivid in Zhang Yi's mind. Therefore, he was not surprised that Duan Lingtian was able to destroy Zhang Yunfei's celestial technique with a single strike. What? He killed a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Zhang Yunfei trembled when he heard Zhang Yi's words. A hint of fear could be seen in his eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian. He did not expect this. He did not expect this purple-clad young man to be so powerful. Damn it! Who spread the news about the heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by the green lotus sword celestial, Li Bai? Who would have thought that Duan Lingtian, an eminent celestial from the Saint Province realm, who obtained the celestial sword, is capable of killing a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Damn it! Damn it! At this moment, Zhang Yunfei could no longer muster up any fighting spirit in front of Duan Lingtian. If it was before Duan Lingtian had destroyed his destructive immortal thunder, he would not have believed Zhang Yi's words. However, he had no choice but to believe it now. How did you find this place? Moreover, when you saw me taking out the celestial sword, you recognized me as someone from the Saint Province realm. You even know my name. Where did you hear this from? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as he stared at Zhang Yunfei fiercely. Although he already had a vague guess in his heart, he still wanted to confirm it. When Duan Lingtian had asked Zhang Yunfei about this, Zhang Yunfei had completely ignored him. However, now that Zhang Yunfei had witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength, he did not dare to be negligent. He quickly replied, I heard about this from someone else. It's said that a heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by a great overarching golden celestial has appeared. Moreover, the great overarching golden celestial is Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial from Yinhuang realm. The news also said that there are 3 people in the heaven-ranked treasure vault who possess celestial supreme treasures. The 3 people are Zhang Yi from Yinhuang realm, Duan Lingtian, and Han Xuanai from the Saint Province realm. Zhang Yunfei did not dare to hide the truth from Zhang Yunfei. It must be Lu Xia. As soon as Zhang Yunfei finished speaking, Han Xuanai said with a dark expression on her face, apart from her, it's impossible for anyone to know my name and brother Lingtian's. Lu Xia. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed coldly as killing intent surged out of his body. Although he had a good temper, he could not help but fly into a rage when he found out Lu Xia had betrayed them after leaving the heaven-ranked treasure vault. Lu Xia was trying to get them killed. It's really her. At this moment, the guess in Duan Lingtian's heart was confirmed. However, he still had a calm expression on his face as though he was not angry because of this matter. However, was this really the truth? Sword-wielding technique. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and the celestial sword that had returned to his hand shot out again. This time, not only did it contain the same amount of power as before, but it was also a preemptive strike. No, Zhang Yunfei did not expect Duan Lingtian would suddenly make a move. His expression changed drastically as he hastily waved his celestial sword in an attempt to stop Duan Lingtian from attacking him. Unfortunately, His reaction was too slow. Spurt. A soft sound rang in the air as Zhang Yunfei's glabella was pierced. Blood gushed out from the wound. Even if Zhang Yunfei's reaction was fast, he would not be able to escape death if Duan Lingtian wanted to kill him. After all, even if he had a celestial sword, his strength was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, Duan Lingtian's current strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. If Duan Lingtian had used the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, Duan Lingtian's strength would be comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, Zhang Yunfei's death was justified. Swoosh. As soon as Zhang Yunfei was killed by Duan Lingtian, Zhang Yi's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Duan Lingtian would suddenly attack and kill Zhang Yunfei. What's wrong? Duan Lingtian immediately noticed the change in Zhang Yi's expression. He looked at Zhang Yi with a puzzled expression on his face. He did not know why Zhang Yi was behaving like this. Could it be that Zhang Yi did not want Zhang Yunfei to die? It's nothing. It's nothing. Although Zhang Yi shook his head, a hint of fear and anxiety could be seen in the depths of his eyes. HM? Duan Lingtian frowned when he saw this. He could tell Zhang Yi had something to say. It's nothing. Upon seeing Duan Lingtian's reaction, Zhang Yi shook his head and said, I just remembered that when you killed Zhang Yunfei, his seniors must have received the recording as well. However, they can't do anything to you since they can't find you. Minor-major mirror image talisman? The first thing that came to Duan Lingtian's mind was the minor-major mirror image talisman in the Saint Province realm. If a person had a minor mirror image talisman on him, when he was killed, the scene before his death would be transmitted to the major mirror image talisman and displayed in the form of a mirror image. However, when he died, I didn't sense the aura of a Dao talisman on him. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. Although Duan Lingtian's voice was not loud, Zhang Yi still heard him clearly. Although the minor-major mirror image talisman isn't called the minor-major mirror image talisman in Yin Huang realm, it's a very low-level technique. In Yin Huang realm, there are Dao talisman masters who can inscribe the Dao talisman on a person's body. When the person dies, the Dao talisman will transmit the mirror image talisman to another person. Moreover, it won't leave any traces behind, Zhang Yi said. Don't worry. The Beyond Heaven secret zone is huge. They won't be able to find you. Zhang Yi added, they won't be able to find me. What about you? When he died just now, the mirror image recorded by the talisman on his body probably included you as well, right? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as he said, his senior must have recognized you as well, right? At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally understood why Zhang Yi had lost his composure when Zhang Yunfei was killed. It doesn't matter. Zhang Yi smiled self-deprecatingly. At most, I won't return to the Celestial Master's sect after I leave the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Don't tell me there's no place for me in this world. If you're more valuable than Zhang Yunfei, does that mean the Celestial Master's sect won't make things difficult for you even if they find out you're involved in Zhang Yunfei's death? Duan Lingtian asked as his eyes flashed. Of course. Zhang Yi nodded. That's why Zhang Yunfei dared to say he wanted to kill me earlier. Although my status in the Celestial Master sect isn't as high as his, I'm still considered one of the best among the younger generation in the Celestial Master sect. I've also inscribed the Dao talisman on my body. As long as I die, the mirror image talisman will be transmitted to my senior in the Celestial Master sect. However, even if news of Zhang Yunfei killing me reaches the Celestial Master sect, the Celestial Master sect will at most punish him. Chapter 2438. That was in the past. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but remind him, don't forget that apart from possessing a celestial supreme treasure, you also possess an offensive divine ability from a Devata realm. As long as you master the 5th sword of the 13 green lotus swords, it'll be equivalent to mastering a divine ability from a Devata realm. At that time, you'll be able to comprehend the assist-type divine ability passed down in the Celestial Master sect and master the Celestial Method, the destructive Celestial Thunder. When you become an eminent Celestial, your strength will be comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless Celestial. Duan Lingtian said, right now, I'm not qualified to comprehend the assist-type divine ability that has been passed down in the Celestial Masters sect for generations, nor am I qualified to cultivate the immortal technique, destructive immortal thunder, which has been passed down in the Celestial Masters sect for generations. Zhang Yi smiled bitterly. Don't overestimate me. I'm not overestimating you. Duan Lingtian continued to say, let me ask you, if you master the 5th sword of the 13 green lotus swords and become an eminent celestial, your strength will be comparable to a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. At that time, if you return to the Celestial Masters sect, will the people from the Celestial Masters sect look for trouble with you because of Zhang Yunfei's death? That won't happen. Zhang Yi thought to himself for a moment before he shook his head and smiled wryly. It's not difficult to become an eminent celestial, but the first 5 swords of the 13 green lotus swords aren't easy to comprehend. In this regard, Zhang Yi was quite self-aware. You've said it yourself. There's no need to worry about not having a place for you in this vast world. At most, you won't have to return to the Celestial Master sect before you master the first 5 swords of the 13 green lotus swords. If you master it, you can return to the Celestial Master sect. At that time, the Celestial Masters sect won't punish you for Zhang Yunfei's death. Duan Lingtian said, that's the only way. Zhang Yi nodded. Right now, he had no other choice. Brother Lingtian, Lu Xia is too much. I didn't expect her to be so despicable. At this time, Han Shuanai said to Duan Lingtian angrily, I didn't expect that she would do that. Hearing Han Shuanai's words, Duan Lingtian thought of Lu Xia, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. When he first met Lu Xia, he really felt that Lu Xia was a good person. But who would have thought that one could not judge a book by its cover? Unknowingly, Duan Lingtian's face tightened as he clenched his fists tightly. If he saw Lu Xia again, he would not show mercy. I'm afraid many bodiless celestials have gathered outside the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by the green lotus sword celestial, Zhang Yi said with a solemn expression. His tone was filled with fear. Han Shuanai nodded. She felt the same way. Since Lu Xia had spread the news, Zhang Yunfei and the other bodiless celestials must not be the only ones who had heard about it. Even the bodiless celestials must have heard about it and rushed over. However, since they could not enter the heaven-rank treasure vault, they could only wait outside. Let's continue. Duan Lingtian did not dwell on this topic. He called out to Han Shuanai and Zhang Yi as he prepared to proceed to the next trial. He had already guessed there would be many bodiless celestials gathered outside the heaven-rank treasure vault. However, since things had already come to this, there was nothing he could do about it. The only thing he could do now was to raise his strength as much as possible before he left the heaven-rank treasure vault. He wanted to be able to protect himself from the bodiless celestials who were like wolves and tigers after he left the heaven-rank treasure vault. While Duan Lingtian was about to proceed to the next trial, more and more people gathered outside the heaven-rank treasure vault left behind by the green lotus sword celestial, Li Bai. Naturally, only bodiless celestials were guarding outside. Most of the people who were not bodiless celestials had entered the heaven-rank treasure vault. Somewhere in the beyond heaven secret zone. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the void, an inexplicable force converged to form a constantly changing image, like a mirror image. The image was the scene of Zhang Yunfei, the disciple of the Celestial Masters sect, being killed by Duan Lingtian. Zhang Yunfei had cast the celestial technique, the matchless celestial thunder, with a domineering aura. However, in the end, it could not block the sword of the purple-clad young man. Who's he? He's just an eminent celestial, but his strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial? At this moment, an old man could be seen standing in front of the constantly changing image. The old man's appearance was quite similar to Zhang Yunfei's, especially his nose, which was exactly the same. He was none other than Zhang Yunfei's grandfather, one of the 2 great guardians of the Celestial Master sect, the left guardian of Dharma, Zhang Chuhe. He was also the strongest person in the Celestial Master sect, one of the 3 strongest people below the 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. The strongest person in the Celestial Master sect was a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. Below him were 3 8 tribulation bodiless celestials. Among the 3 8 tribulation bodiless celestials, one was the sect leader of the Celestial Masters sect, and the other two were the two guardians of the Celestial Masters sect. I don't care who you are. I, Zhang Chuhe, will kill you for killing my grandson. Looking at the purple-clothed young man in the mirror image, Zhang Chuhe's throat moved a little as he unhurriedly spat out these words. His voice was filled with killing intent. As soon as he spoke, the temperature in the surroundings seemed to drop by a few degrees. This person, he seems familiar. Zhang Chuhe's eyes were bloodshot, and his face was filled with anger. His gaze quickly fell on one of the other two people in the mirror image. It was a young man who looked familiar to Zhang Chuhe. Zhang Yi. After a while, Zhang Chuhe finally remembered that this young man was also a disciple of the Celestial Master sect. Moreover, not only did he watch with folded arms, he seemed to recognize the purple-clothed young man who killed his grandson. Damn it! Damn it! Colluding with outsiders to kill a fellow disciple. Zhang Yi. This is unforgivable. This is unforgivable. At this moment, Zhang Chuhe's fury was no longer only vented on Duan Lingtian. He even directed a portion of his fury at Zhang Yi. He wished he could tear Zhang Yi into 1,000 pieces as well. Zhang Chuhe was the strongest person from the Celestial Masters sect who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. However, even though he knew who killed his grandson, he couldn't do anything to that person, unless he could find that person in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. However, was that even possible? Zhang Chuhe knew it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack if he wanted to find the person who had killed his grandson in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Zhang Yi. As long as he returns to Yanhuang realm, I'll be able to stop him. As long as I can stop him, I'll be able to find out who killed Fei and avenge Fei. Soon after, Zhang Chuhe made up his mind. 2.5 years later, once he sensed the entrance of the Beyond Heaven secret zone in Yanhuang realm, he would immediately leave the Beyond Heaven secret zone and wait for Zhang Yi to take the bait. There are still 2.5 years left. I'll try to obtain 1 or 2 celestial supreme treasures in these 2.5 years. The moment Zhang Chuhe thought of this, he left in a flash to search for the Earth-rank treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. After all, he had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone for the celestial supreme treasures. In a human-rank treasure vault in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Brother, a young man who looked exactly like Zhang Yunfei stared at the shattered soul bead in his hand. His eyes widened, and a murderous aura surged from his body, ready to burst out at any moment. The young man was dressed in a white robe with golden trimmings. He looked exactly like Zhang Yunfei. He was none other than Zhang Yunfei's twin brother, the strongest person among the younger generation in the Celestial Masters sect. Zhang Yunteng. Zhang Yunteng did not expect to be greeted with such bad news as soon as he entered the human-rank treasure vault and obtained the next clue about the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial. His twin brother, Zhang Yunfei, was dead. Moreover, even if his younger brother was killed, he wouldn't know who killed him. The only way he could find the culprit was if he could find his grandfather, the left guardian of Dharma, one of the two great guardians of the Celestial Masters sect. Because once his younger brother was killed, his grandfather would receive the mirror image of his younger brother's death in time and would know who killed his younger brother. I don't care who you are, which force you're from, or which realm you're from. You'll die for killing my brother. You'll die for sure. While muttering to himself, Zhang Yunteng's voice gradually became louder and louder. It was filled with an extreme chill, causing the human-grade treasure trove to seemingly turn into a land of ice in an instant. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of this. At this moment, Duan Lingtian, Han Xuanai, and Zhang Yi had successfully obtained the inheritance left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial. Half a year had passed in just a blink of an eye. Why hasn't anyone come out yet? It's been half a year. So many people have gone in, but none of them have come out? The heaven-ranked treasure vault left behind by a great overarching golden celestial is so terrifying. Don't tell me all of them died in there? Outside the underground palace where the heaven-ranked treasure vault was left behind by Li Bai, the green lotus sword celestial was located. a group of bodiless celestials looked at each other in confusion. Among them, those who had arrived first had been waiting here for half a year. Since a month ago, many bodiless celestials had left. Naturally, there were still many bodiless celestials who were waiting here. Most of the bodiless celestials who stayed behind were bodiless celestials with outstanding strength, since most of them knew their limits and left. They knew even if someone came out of the underground palace, they would not be able to snatch anything with their strength. Naturally, there were also some bodiless celestials with weak strength who did not leave. Chapter 24:39. Could it be that there are other exits in this heaven-ranked treasure vault? In the sky above the underground palace, a loose immortal stared at the entrance of the underground palace and frowned. No. Another bodiless celestial shook his head and said, in the beyond heaven secret zone, there's only one entrance to the human-ranked treasure vault, heaven-ranked treasure vault, and the place where the great overarching golden celestials left their legacies. In the past, the beyond heaven secret zone had been opened before. According to the records left behind by the people of that time, it also emphasized one point, whether it was a human treasure vault, a heaven treasure vault, or the land of inheritance of a Daluo golden immortal, there was only one entrance. Wherever one entered, one could only exit. But in the past half a year, at least 100 non-itinerant immortals have entered. However, no one came out. Don't you find it strange? The loose immortal who spoke first looked at the loose immortal who spoke later and questioned. It's a little strange, but that doesn't mean that there's another exit to this heaven-ranked treasure vault. The latter nodded at first, then shook his head. Now, there are only two possibilities. Either the people who entered have already died in the checkpoint of the heaven-ranked treasure vault, or they haven't come out yet. Many of the other loose immortals agreed with the words of this loose immortal. As for the group of itinerant immortals, some of them wholeheartedly agreed with this itinerant immortal's words, while others were indignant that they had waited for so long only to see nothing in the end. Whoosh! With the sound of wind whistling, a figure flew over from afar and appeared in front of the group of loose immortals in the blink of an eye. He run? The newcomer was a young man. As soon as he appeared, he was recognized by one of the bodiless celestials present. This bodiless celestial was an old man. He was dressed in plain clothes and looked very ordinary. He did not stand out among the group of bodiless celestials. Elder Chi. When the young man heard the voice and saw the old man, his body suddenly trembled. He then respectfully bowed to the old man. Junior He Run greets Elder Chi. He had never seen the old man in front of him before he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. It was only because he was going to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone that his sect had gathered a group of people, including himself, that he had the opportunity to meet this old man. Only then did he learn this old man was the mysterious Seven Tribulation bodiless celestial in his force. Moreover, it was said that this Seven Tribulation bodiless celestial was even stronger than the leader of his force, another Seven Tribulation bodiless celestial. He never thought that he would meet the other party here. He run. Did you also hear that a heaven-ranked treasure vault has appeared here and specially rushed over? The old man narrowed his eyes and asked He Run. Yes. He Run hurriedly nodded, and then glanced around. His heart could not help but tremble. There were at least 50 to 60 people around. Moreover, since they were guarding this place and did not enter, they were most likely itinerant immortals. As a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, he felt slightly pressured by these people who seemed to be bodiless celestials. I've been waiting here for half a year. The old man looked at He Run and said, in the past 6 months, no less than 100 people have entered the heaven-ranked treasure vault. However, none of them came out in the end. There's no lack of eminent celestials among them. The old man paused for a moment before he said, so, do you still want to go in? Elder Chi, I want to go in and have a look. He Run said without any hesitation. From the moment he entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, he had already mentally prepared himself. Fortune came with risk. If one wanted to obtain celestial supreme treasures, divine abilities from the Devata realms, and the inheritance from a great overarching golden celestial, naturally, he would have to take risks. All right. The old man did not try to persuade He Run again. He wanted to see if He Run would be in danger after entering the heaven-ranked treasure vault. If something happened to He Run, he would be able to find out immediately. After all, apart from He Run's soul pearl, he also had a Tao talisman that matched the one inscribed on He Run's body. As long as He Run was killed, the scenes before He Run's death would be displayed in front of him in the form of a mirror image. Elder Chi, I'm going in. He Run did not hesitate. After bidding farewell to the old man, he entered the heaven-rank treasure vault under everyone's watchful eyes. As soon as He Run entered the heaven-rank treasure vault, a bodiless celestial looked at the old man and asked, "Brother, is he a junior from your sect?" "Yes." The old man nodded. "Does this mean you have his soul pearl?" Someone asked. "It's not just his soul pearl. I have a mirror image Tao talisman that matches his Tao talisman." The old man raised an eyebrow. The eyes of the bodiless celestials brightened immediately. After all, they knew what this meant. This meant, once something happened to He Run, the old man in front of him would be able to discover it immediately and see the scene before He Run was killed. Swoosh! At this moment, a soul pearl appeared in the old man's hand. It was none other than He Run's soul pearl. The bodiless celestials in the surroundings immediately shifted their attention to the soul pearl. Crack! After a dozen breaths, the soul pearl in the old man's hand shattered under the shocked gazes of the bodiless celestials. He's dead? He died just like that? It hasn't even been 20 breaths since he entered the heaven-rank treasure vault, right? What's so dangerous in the heaven-rank treasure vault? The bodiless celestials were shocked when they saw the soul pearl in the old man's hand shattering. They did not expect someone who had entered the heaven-rank treasure vault would die so quickly. Previously, none of the people who had entered the heaven-rank treasure vault were juniors of the bodiless celestials present. For this reason, they did not have the soul pearls of the juniors. If the juniors did not come out, they would not know what was going on inside. Even if the juniors were dead, they would not know when they had died. Now that the soul orb in the old man's hand that belonged to a junior disciple of his faction had shattered, it told them something else. This heaven-rank treasure vault was extremely dangerous. A powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage had died in less than 20 breaths after entering the treasure vault. Brother, quickly take a look at how he died. Many bodiless celestials looked at the old man and asked anxiously. At the same time, the old man's eyes were no longer focused on the broken soul orb in his hand. Instead, his eyes were slightly slack. He died so quickly? Although the old man did not have much hope for He Run, the junior from his sect, he was shocked by He Run's strength. However, He Run dying so quickly still shocked him to a certain extent. I'd like to see if He Run died in the heaven-rank treasure vault, or if he was killed by someone else. With this thought in mind, the old man took out a Tao talisman and crushed it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Almost as soon as the old man crushed the talisman, a mysterious power appeared in the void in front of him. In the end, this mysterious power turned into a series of constantly changing images. He Run's figure appeared in the images. However, there were 3 other people who appeared with He Run. One of them was a purple-clothed young man. He sat cross-legged in the void, and there were many illusory figures moving rapidly around him. These illusory figures all had a sword in their hands. He's comprehending a divine ability? Many bodiless celestials' eyes lit up. Could this be the offensive divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords, that's in the heaven-rank treasure vault? It's possible. Many people nodded in agreement. It's obviously a divine ability from the Devata realm. Moreover, it's a sword-type divine ability. It must be the 13 green lotus swords. According to the news, there are 3 people in the heaven-rank treasure vault. Duanling Tian, a man from the Saint Province realm, had obtained a celestial sword before he entered the heaven-rank treasure vault. Moreover, he was wearing a purple robe. If I'm not mistaken, the purple-clad young man must be Duanling Tian. It seems like Duanling Tian has also obtained the divine ability, the 13 green lotus swords. The 2 people guarding Duanling Tian must be Zhang Yi from Yin Huang realm and Han Xuanai from the Saint Province realm. It's said that both of them possess a celestial supreme treasure as well. Duanling Tian murmured to himself. 3 immortal supreme treasures. Upon seeing Duanling Tian, Han Xuanai, and Zhang Yi in the mirror image, The eyes of the group of itinerant immortals outside the underground palace lit up. Some of them had stayed until now because of the immortal supreme treasures in the hands of Duan Lingtian and the other two. And now, seeing that Duan Lingtian's group of three were still alive, they naturally couldn't help but feel excited, because this also meant that the cooked duck had not flown away yet. Why are there only three of them? Where are the others? At the same time, some of the itinerant immortals who had seen the grand hall through the mirror image did not see the hundreds of people who had entered the underground palace. Their expressions turned grim immediately. Do you see the bloodstains on the ground? I'm guessing those people have most likely been killed by Duan Ling Tian's group of three. Many itinerant immortals were still speculating. He Run, who had just entered the underground palace, had already spoken to Zhang Yi. Soon after, He Run made his move and charged toward Zhang Yi. However, Zhang Yi had killed him with a swing of his sword. Zhang Yi is a disciple of the Celestial Masters sect from Yinhuang realm. Chapter 2440. Based on his strength, it seems like he's on par with He Run. However, the sword in his hand is extraordinary. It must be the celestial sword he obtained from the heaven-rank treasure vault. At this moment, many bodiless celestials noticed the sword in Zhang Yi's hand. When two people of similar strength fought, one of them managed to kill the other in a one-sided manner. There must be a reason for this. They could see it was because of the sword in Zhang Yi's hand. To be more precise, it was because of the celestial sword. A powerhouse at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage, wielding a celestial sword, was comparable to an eminent celestial. A celestial sword? The bodiless celestials who were watching the mirror images looked at the celestial sword in Zhang Yi's hand with greed in their eyes. The Celestial Masters sect from Yinhuang realm? The old man from He Run's force was slightly fearful when he heard the people around him said the person who killed He Run was a disciple from the Celestial Masters sect in Yinhuang realm. The Celestial Masters sect was one of the top forces in Yinhuang realm. Moreover, it was one of the top forces in Yinhuang realm. Although the force he belonged to was not in Yinhuang realm, it was not considered a top force in the mundane realm he was in, let alone compared to a top force like the Celestial Master sect in Yinhuang realm. So what if he's from the Celestial Master sect? It doesn't matter if I kill him to avenge He Run or not. What I want is the celestial sword in his hand. Soon after, the old man regained his senses. The fear in his eyes gradually disappeared. In his opinion, this was not the case. As long as he did not kill Zhang Yi, he would not offend the Celestial Masters sect. If Zhang Yi's celestial supreme treasure was taken away by him, Zhang Yi could only blame himself for not being able to protect a celestial supreme treasure. Whoosh! With a soft sound, the mirror image disappeared. Although the mirror images had disappeared, the greed in the bodiless celestials' hearts had been roused. Before the mirror images appeared, they were not sure if the three people who had obtained the celestial supreme treasures were still in there. However, now that they knew the three people who had obtained the celestial supreme treasures, the three people who obtained the immortal supreme treasures were still in the heaven-rank treasure vault, but they had not come out yet. Moreover, other than the three of them, the 100+ people who had entered the heaven treasure trove later had all died inside. However, even so, they were not afraid in the slightest. After all, those who could enter the heaven-rank treasure vault were all existences that were not itinerant immortals. Not only were they bodiless celestials, but apart from a few of them, the rest were all bodiless celestials with extraordinary strength. Now, there's finally some hope. They will come out sooner or later. Just you wait. Some of the itinerant immortals who had been waiting impatiently and were about to leave stopped thinking about leaving at this moment. Instead, they stared at the entrance of the underground palace excitedly, waiting for the person inside to come out. In the northern region of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Master, Senior Heavenly Secrets, I'm going in. In the misty ice mountain valley, Gonru Yin greeted Bluefire and the Oracle Man and prepared to enter the black hole that was suspended in the air not far away. Currently, she had successfully broken through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. For this reason, she was prepared to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. However, Ganru Yin was unaware that she was not going to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, but the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Si Ling is still cultivating. I won't be able to talk to her. Please take good care of her, Master and Senior Heavenly Secrets. Before she left, Ganru Yin added. Without waiting for Blue Fire and the Oracle Man's reply, she disappeared into the black hole in just a flash. It was as though she had been swallowed by the black hole. Sigh. After Ganru Yin disappeared, Blue Fire sighed. He had failed to stop his direct disciple from entering the Heaven Secret Zone. He really wanted to enter the black hole as well, but the black hole rejected those who were not bodiless celestials over the age of 100. As soon as Ganru Yin disappeared into the black hole, somewhere in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. This is, Sister has entered? A woman who had just come out of a human-rank treasure vault with a feng shui compass in her hand looked at the woman with bright eyes before she flew in another direction. The woman had beautiful hair that cascaded down her back like a waterfall. Her figure was graceful, and she was extremely beautiful. Most importantly, she was extremely beautiful. She looked exactly like Ganru Yin. This woman was none other than Duan Lingtian's wife, Ke. If it was a month ago, Ke and Ganru Yin would not be able to sense each other's presence even though they were twins. Currently, Ke was able to sense Ganru Yin's presence from afar. She knew Ganru Yin had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone because of this. A month ago, her strength had increased by another level. Ever since her cultivation base had improved, apart from regaining some of her memories from her past life, she had also discovered that her perception of her surroundings had improved. Just like now. Suddenly, she sensed that her twin sister, Ganru Yin, had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone as well. Naturally, the reason she could sense Ganru Yin's presence was due to the blood connection between her and Ganru Yin. Currently, she had the ability to amplify the connection. Meanwhile, when Ganru Yin was close to the black hole, she saw a flash in front of her. She instinctively narrowed her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she discovered that she was in a stone forest. Moreover, she heard a series of thunderous sounds as if someone was fighting nearby. The celestial supreme treasure is mine. I'm going to get this celestial supreme treasure. At this moment, Ganru Yin heard a series of beastly roars. When she looked closer, she saw a group of people fighting in the distance. Many people were watching the battle from afar. Celestial supreme treasure? Don't tell me there's a celestial supreme treasure here? When Ganru Yin heard the beastly roars, she couldn't help but look around. In the end, her gaze landed on the area below where the group of people were fighting in a chaotic battle. A towering boulder stood there, and on top of the boulder, there was a crescent-shaped narrow saber suspended. The narrow saber floated there. From a distance, the saber looked like a pool of autumn water. It didn't look like an ordinary item. Don't tell me this is a celestial supreme treasure? For a moment, Ganru Yin's heartbeat quickened. She did not expect this. She did not expect to encounter a celestial supreme treasure as soon as she entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Wait a minute. Ganru Yin suddenly felt something was amiss. Was this not the Sword Saint secret zone? Up until now, apart from the people from the Seven Absolutes sect, no one else she knew had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. That's right. Senior Prophet seemed to have said that the key to the Sword Saint secret zone isn't the only key he has. There are other keys in other places as well. From the looks of it, these people came in through the door that was opened by another key. Ganru Yin thought to herself. However, it seems like the people fighting are all bodiless celestials. At the same time, Ganru Yin glanced at the battlefield in the distance. She discovered that the people who attacked the battlefield were all extremely powerful. She was no match for them. Who do you think will obtain the celestial supreme treasure in the end? Ganru Yin heard a commotion in the air. It was the group of spectators surrounding the battlefield, discussing and whispering. I think the owner of the celestial supreme treasure will be one of the 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. After all, the 2 of them are the strongest people here. If it weren't for them, the others wouldn't be able to compete for the celestial supreme treasure. A middle-aged man's voice rang in Ganru Yin's ears. At this moment, Ganru Yin saw 2 people fighting fiercely. Surprisingly, there were 2 people fighting intensely on the battlefield. However, there was no third person in the battle between the two of them. Moreover, the others were intentionally avoiding them. They must be the two five tribulation bodiless celestials. Ganru Yin was shocked when she saw the two people fighting. Based on the commotion, she was certain they were five tribulation bodiless celestials. However, the aura they emitted when they fought seems to be slightly weaker than Di Chun from the Dragon Clan. Prior to this, the only five tribulation bodiless celestial Ganru Yin had encountered was Di Chun. At that time, she was still the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. However, although Di Chun was a five tribulation bodiless celestial, he was forced to kneel, kowtow, and beg for mercy by her sister's husband, Duan Lingtian. Her sister's husband's actions shocked the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. It's normal. After all, rumor has it that Di Chun was on the verge of becoming a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial at that time. However, he failed to become a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial in the end. Ganru Yin had heard about Di Chun's failure to pass the sixth tribulation bodiless celestial and his death. She had also heard about Di Chun's failure. The reason Di Chun failed to pass the celestial ascension tribulation was due to his obsession with her sister's husband, Duan Lingtian. For this reason, Di Chun's father, Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons and a seven tribulation bodiless celestial, had been searching for her sister's husband in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. He wanted to avenge Di Chun by killing him. These bodiless celestials are not weak. Ganru Yin turned to look at the other bodiless celestials. Suddenly, Ganru Yin discovered someone was watching from afar. While the group of bodiless celestials were fighting, a person who was watching from the side quietly approached the celestial supreme treasure. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.